You open your eyes to fire. A boy born in chains grows into the monster who burned the Jedi temple to the ground. His name? Darth Malgus, the Sith who killed love, betrayed his own masters, and refused to die. This is not just a story of war, it's the nightmare the galaxy could never bury, and that's why it sucked to be a Sith. But even worse, it sucked to stand against Darth Malgus. So sit back, grab a snack, and let your imagination drift across the stars. And remember, if you enjoy this journey, subscribe, because the story of the galaxy is far from over. You hear it before you see anything, a sound so sharp it cuts through the silence of the galaxy, the thin, desperate wail of a newborn child. The cry is raw, unfiltered, a sound that claws into your ears and rattles something deep inside your chest. You can almost smell the iron tang of blood in the air, the sharp sting of antiseptic mixing with the sour sweat of fear. The room is dark, lit only by the glow of cold, sterile lights, and in that glow you see the tiny body of an infant, slick with the first stains of life, flailing in a galaxy that has no intention of welcoming him gently. You lean closer, and the cry echoes louder in your ears. The baby does not know yet that he has been born into war. He does not know that the hands reaching for him are not those of a loving mother, but the calloused, rough hands of Sith caretakers. Black robes hang heavy in the shadows, and you can hear the low hum of voices reciting names and codes, as if this life is nothing more than another entry in their endless archives of conquest. To them, this child is not a gift. He is a weapon waiting to be sharpened. You watch the infant's eyes open for the first time, wide, unfocused, swimming in the haze of existence. For a split second, there is innocence there, a glimpse of something pure. But already you feel it being smothered beneath the weight of destiny. The child is not cradled with love. He is measured, judged, weighed against the darkness. You hear one of the figures whisper the word aloud, and it sticks in your mind like a knife. Malgus. You can almost taste the air, metallic and bitter, as the child is taken away. The cries grow faint, swallowed by the echoing corridors of the Sith citadel. Every step the caretakers take is a drumbeat of inevitability. You know, deep in your bones, you are not watching the birth of a man. You are watching the birth of a monster. And yet, you feel a strange pull of sympathy. Because right now, before the chains of anger and discipline tighten around him, he is only a child. A child who never asked for this life. A child who never had a choice. The corridors are lined with stone etched by centuries of blood. You can feel the coldness of the walls against your fingertips, rough and unyielding. The cries echo again, bouncing off the walls until they sound less like the wail of a baby and more like the scream of the galaxy itself. That's the thing about the Sith. There is no comfort here, no lullaby, no warm embrace, only the reminder that existence is pain and survival is earned. You hear the hiss of torches, smell the smoke curling in the halls, and you realize that this child's first breaths are filled with fire and ash. The Sith do not shield him from the cruelty of the galaxy. They feed him to it, because in their eyes, every moment of suffering is a lesson. Every tear is a scar waiting to be carved into his spirit. And in the distance you hear the faint murmur of a chant, as if the entire temple itself is breathing in rhythm with the child's cries. You can almost feel the chill of the floor beneath your feet as the caretakers carry him deeper into the temple, down into the dark where no sunlight ever reaches. You imagine the child's tiny body trembling, not from cold, but from the instinctive knowledge that he has been taken into the heart of something merciless. Already, his life has been claimed. Already, he belongs to the Sith. You close your eyes for a moment, and you can picture the child years from now, older, harder, his eyes glowing with the pale fire of rage, his hands gripping the hilt of a weapon that will slaughter countless enemies. But it all begins here, with the wail of a newborn echoing into the darkness, and the sound of Sith voices twisting that innocence into destiny. You wonder for a moment, what would have happened if he had been born somewhere else, if his first sight had been a sunrise instead of a ceiling of stone, if the first hands to hold him had been gentle instead of cruel. Would there have been a different path, a different story? But you shake the thought away. The Sith do not deal in what-ifs, they deal in absolutes. And the absolute truth is this: Malgus never had a chance. As the cries fade, you are left with silence. A silence so heavy it presses against your chest, making it hard to breathe. And in that silence, you realize something terrible. This is not just the cry of a child. This is the cry of the galaxy itself, mourning the birth of a storm that will one day consume it. The baby is gone now, swallowed into the endless machinery of Sith training. All that remains is the echo, a sound that lingers long after the child himself has fallen silent, and you feel it hanging in the air like a curse, whispering a promise of what is to come. That's why it sucked to be born a Sith. But as you linger in that silence, you hear another sound, not the cry of a child, but the heavy, guttural roar of something else, something older, something dangerous. It comes from the training pits below, where creatures are thrown against young Sith to test their will to survive, and you realize with a sinking weight in your stomach that soon this child will be thrown into those pits. His cries will become screams, his innocence will be carved away with blood. You draw in a breath, tasting the smoke and ash, and you know the truth. The story has only just begun, and the next time you hear Malgus's voice, it will not be the cry of a child, it will be the roar of a beast. You open your eyes to darkness, not the kind of darkness that comes when the sun sets, but the kind that feels alive, the kind that breathes against your skin and presses against your ribs. You are walking down the endless stone corridors of Korriban, the air so dry it cracks your lips. Dust clings to your tongue. Every step you take echoes, sharp and hollow, until it feels like the temple itself is listening. And then you hear it, the sound of flesh striking flesh, a crack, a grunt, the gasp of a boy struggling to stand. The noise is raw, animalistic, the language of survival. You round a corner and there he is, the child from before, no longer wrapped in cloth and innocence. His body is lean, cut with lines of pain, his chest heaving as he lifts a training blade too heavy for his small arms. The Sith Masters circle him like wolves, their faces hidden in the glow of red torches. Their voices are sharp, slicing through the air like whips. You watch as the boy, Malgus, strikes again. His blade swings wide, clumsy, desperate. The master doesn't even flinch. A single backhand across the boy's face drops him to the floor. His cheek slams against the stone, blood spilling from a split lip, pooling dark against the dust. You feel the sting in your own mouth, as if the strike was yours. The boy groans, tries to rise, and another boot slams into his ribs. The sound is sickening, a dull crack echoing through the chamber. You can almost feel it in your side, the sharp ache of bone splintering. But he doesn't cry, not anymore. The masters beat the tears out of him years ago. The boy only snarls through the blood, dragging himself to his knees. His eyes burn, not with fear, but with rage. That rage is the only thing keeping him upright. And the masters smile, because that's what they wanted all along. You can smell sweat in the air, thick and sour. The room reeks of fear and ambition, two scents that never leave this place. On Korriban, the air is always heavy with dust and despair, but here in the training halls, it carries something else, the weight of destiny pressing down on children too young to understand the chains they wear. Every scar on Malgus's body is a story of failure, a story of survival. And you realize the truth. The Sith don't raise children, they forge weapons. You step closer, and the boy swings again. His blade is clumsy, but his strike has weight now, driven not by skill, but by fury. It connects with the master's leg, not enough to wound, not enough to win, but enough to prove he will not break. The master sneers, backhands him again, but this time, the boy doesn't fall. He staggers, spits blood, and raises the blade once more. You can hear his breath, ragged and uneven, filling the room with a rhythm of defiance. In the shadows, other acolytes watch. Children like him, some trembling, some smirking, all knowing they could be next. They are not friends. On Korriban, friendship is a weakness. Every pair of eyes in that room is waiting for him to fail, because every failure is an opportunity for someone else to rise. You can feel their hunger pressing in, sharp and cold as a knife at your back. The boy finally collapses. His body is too small, too broken to continue. The masters nod satisfied. He has survived the lesson, and that's enough, for now. He is dragged to the side, thrown onto the stone like a piece of meat. His blood stains the floor, and you can almost taste the copper tang of it on your tongue. The masters turn away, already calling for the next child, already setting the cycle of pain into motion again. Because here, the only truth that matters is this: weakness is death. You kneel beside the boy in your mind's eye. His chest rises and falls in shallow breaths, every inhale rattling against broken ribs. His face is swollen, eyes half closed, but there's something still burning in them, something alive. A thought curls at the edge of your mind, heavy and bitter. This is how Malgus learns. Not through books, not through gentle guidance, but through scars. Each scar becomes a memory, each memory becomes a lesson, and each lesson sharpens him into something the galaxy should fear. You feel the chill of the stone floor against your own skin. You feel the blood sticking hot and thick to your palms. And in that moment you understand what the Sith are doing. They are not raising a child. They are raising a storm, and storms are not taught to be kind. Time passes. You hear the march of days in the sound of boots against stone, in the clang of blades striking again and again. You see the boy grow taller, stronger, his strikes sharper now, his eyes harder. But with every victory the masters strike harder too, because strength is not enough, hunger is not enough. The Sith demand everything, and if he cannot give everything, he is nothing. You catch glimpses of his inner world, flickers of doubt that pass like shadows. Sometimes, late at night when the torches burn low and the other acolytes lie broken or sleeping, he stares at the ceiling with eyes too wide. You can almost hear his thoughts. Why me? Why was I born to this? But the Sith do not allow questions, only obedience, only rage. And so he buries the doubt, strangles it in silence, and rises again the next day with nothing left but fire. The training never ends. One day it is blades, the next, the Force. You see him stand in the circle, arms outstretched, trying to lift boulders heavier than his own body. His muscles tremble, sweat pours down his face, veins bulge against his skin, and just when he finally manages to lift one, just when his heart dares to taste the sweetness of success, a master shatters his focus with a lightning strike. Blue arcs of pain rip through his body and he collapses, writhing on the stone, the smell of burnt flesh filling your nostrils. The lesson is cruel but simple. Achievement means nothing. Survival is everything, and somehow he survives. Always, again and again. The whip cracks, the blade cuts, the lightning burns, but Malgus endures. And every time he endures, something inside him hardens, something sharpens. You can feel it, like standing next to a furnace that grows hotter with every hour. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because there is no childhood here, no laughter, no warmth, only scars carved too deep into flesh and soul. And every scar is a reminder, you are not a person, you are a weapon. One day you watch him stand in the circle again, his blade in his hands, his chest heaving, his body battered but unbowed. The master steps forward, smirking, certain he will break the boy again. But something is different now. The air itself feels heavy, vibrating with tension. You can almost taste ozone on your tongue, the way the air tastes just before a storm. Malgus's eyes blaze with fury, and this time, when he swings, the strike lands with bone-shattering force. The master staggers, surprised, almost dropping his weapon. The room falls silent. The other children stare. For the first time, Malgus has drawn blood, not his own, but his teacher's. The sight of it, a single red line across the master's cheek, is more powerful than any scream. It is proof that the boy is no longer prey, proof that he is becoming the predator. And as the silence deepens, you realize something chilling. This is not the end of his suffering. It is only the beginning. Because the stronger he becomes, the harsher the masters will strike. The more he proves himself, the more they will demand. And someday soon, they will throw him not against masters, but against monsters. Creatures bred in darkness, beasts that kill with teeth and claws. You feel the stone shift under your feet. You hear the distant roar of something massive. The sound reverberates through the temple, shaking dust from the ceiling, sending chills down your spine. The roar is primal, hungry, echoing up from the pits below. And you know, with a sinking weight in your stomach, what comes next. The boy will be thrown into the darkness, and he will either rise as a beast or die as a child. You hear it before you see anything. The sound of stone grinding against stone, the metallic shriek of a gate being dragged open. The noise echoes like thunder rolling through the hollow belly of Korriban. Dust rains down from the cavern ceiling, stinging your eyes, choking your throat. The air is thick here, damp and sour, heavy with the smell of rot and the iron tang of blood soaked into the earth. And then you hear it, claws scraping against rock, slow and deliberate, each step announcing the arrival of something hungry. You look down into the pit, and there he is, the boy, Malgus, still young, still raw, his body covered in bruises and scars from years of training. Sweat pours down his face, dripping into his eyes, burning with salt. He wipes it away with the back of his hand, gripping the hilt of a training blade so tightly that his knuckles are white. His chest rises and falls in shallow breaths, each inhale a reminder that this might be his last. The torches burn low, their flames dancing wildly as if the darkness itself is alive, pressing in closer, suffocating. The other acolytes watch from the ledges above, their faces half hidden in the glow, some sneering, some whispering prayers for his death. Because here, mercy is weakness, and weakness is death. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. The first roar tears through the cavern like lightning splitting the sky. It's deep, guttural, vibrating through your bones until your heart stumbles in your chest. You taste fear in your mouth, bitter and sharp. The beast emerges from the shadows, hulking and twisted, its yellow eyes burning like twin suns in the dark. Its breath steams in the cold air, reeking of decay. Its claws, long and curved, drag against the stone with a screech that makes your teeth ache. Malgus stands frozen for a heartbeat, just one, and in that heartbeat you feel his doubt flicker. I'm not ready. I can't win this. I'm still just a boy. But the Sith do not give him time for fear. A voice booms from the ledge above, sharp, merciless. Fight or die! The beast lunges. The sound is thunderous, the air itself splitting under the weight of its charge. Malgus throws himself to the side, the claws missing him by inches, gouging the stone floor where he had stood. Shards of rock explode into the air, cutting his cheek. Blood mingles with sweat, stinging his eyes. He stumbles, gasping, heart hammering so loud it drowns out every other sound. The beast roars again, saliva flying from its fanged mouth, spattering hot against his face. The smell is rancid, choking him. It charges once more, and this time he raises his blade, screaming as he swings. The blade scrapes against its hide, sparks bursting into the dark, but it's shallow, too shallow. The beast barely feels it. Its massive body slams into him, sending him crashing into the cavern wall. His ribs scream in agony. The air is knocked from his lungs. For a moment he can't breathe. He tastes blood in his mouth, hot and metallic. The acolytes above laugh. To them, it's entertainment. To the Sith masters, it's a lesson. To Malgus, it's survival. He drags himself up, body trembling, vision blurring. His blade shakes in his grip, but he refuses to let go. Somewhere deep inside, past the fear, past the pain, something else begins to stir. Something darker, something primal. The beast snarls, charging again. This time Malgus doesn't run. He waits. He feels the ground quake with each pounding step. His breath slows. His pupils narrow. He listens to the sound of the claws striking stone, to the rhythm of the beast's breath. At the last second he dives forward, rolling under its strike, his blade slicing deep into its leg. Blood sprays across his face, hot, thick, bitter on his tongue. The beast howls in rage, stumbling, its massive claws scraping furiously against the stone. The boy is not smiling. There is no joy in this. Only fire, only hunger. He rises, eyes blazing with something new, something feral. He attacks again, screaming, his voice echoing through the cavern like a war cry. His blade cuts again, deeper this time, slicing through hide and muscle. The beast lashes out, claws ripping across his chest, shredding flesh. The pain sears through him like fire, and he screams, but he doesn't fall. He refuses to fall. The acolytes above lean forward, their sneers faltering. The boy is changing before their eyes. He is no longer stumbling, no longer clumsy. Every movement is sharp, vicious. Every strike carries the weight of rage. You can feel it too, the shift in the air, like standing at the heart of a storm as lightning gathers. Malgus is bleeding, his chest torn open, blood soaking his skin, but he doesn't stop. His heart pounds not with fear, but with fury. He fights not like a student, but like a beast. His blade slams into the creature's neck, slicing deep. The roar shakes the cavern. The beast thrashes, claws tearing gouges into the ground, but the boy holds on, screaming, pressing the blade deeper, deeper, until the spray of blood drenches him head to toe. And then, silence. The beast collapses with a shudder, its body twitching before finally going still. The cavern floor trembles beneath the weight of its fall. Malgus stands over it, chest heaving, drenched in blood and sweat, his eyes glowing with something unholy. The acolytes above are silent now. The masters do not move, because what they see is no longer just a boy. You look at him, and you feel it too. Something inside him has shifted, something permanent. In killing the beast, He has become one. His breath is ragged, guttural, more growl than inhale. His teeth clench, blood dripping from his lips. His body trembles, not from fear, but from the raw hunger that now pulses in his veins. He doesn't just fight the beasts, he becomes one. And you realize the terrible truth. The boy has learned the most important lesson of Korriban. Mercy is death. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because the only way to live was to kill. But the masters are not satisfied. One beast is never enough. The gate screeches again, stone grinding, chains rattling. Another roar echoes from the shadows, deeper, louder, shaking the cavern walls. The ground quakes beneath your feet. Malgus turns his head, eyes still blazing, his chest still dripping with blood. And you know, this trial is not over. It has only just begun. The first thing you hear is breathing, not soft, not gentle, but mechanical, ragged inhalations forced through a filter. Each breath sounds heavy, like iron dragged across stone, like the galaxy itself straining just to exist. You do not realize at first that it is his breath, that it belongs to the boy you have been following through shadows, the boy who fought beasts with blood on his face and hunger in his eyes. But now, he is no longer only a boy, he is something else. The chamber around you is dim, lit by torches burning low, their flames sputtering in the stale air of Korriban. Smoke coils upward, tracing the carved runes on the walls, the marks of centuries of Sith who have come before. The ground is cold beneath your feet, rough stone dusted with the ashes of failures. You smell oil, heated metal, burned flesh, the forge of identity, the crucible of transformation. And in the center of it, kneeling with his head bowed, is the boy. He has no name anymore. The one he was born with has been stripped away, forgotten, ground into the dirt along with his childhood. Here, names are not gifts, they are weapons. They are forged, chosen, hammered against the anvil of pain until they carry not softness, but weight. And tonight, in this chamber of smoke and whispers, the boy will be given his. The Sith Masters stand in a half-circle around him, their robes blending with the shadows. Their faces are hidden, but their voices cut through the silence. Words in a language older than the Republic itself, syllables sharp and heavy with power. You feel them vibrating through your chest, sinking into your bones. They are not merely speaking, they are binding, etching chains of destiny onto the boy's soul. And then, a single word. It falls from their lips like the strike of a hammer. Malgus. The sound slams into you like metal against flesh. You hear it echo in the chamber, again and again, until it feels as if the walls themselves are whispering it back at you. Malgus. The boy raises his head. Blood stains his mouth. His eyes burn in the torchlight. You can feel the weight of the name pressing down on him, heavy as armor, sharp as a blade. It is not just a name. It is a prison and a weapon all at once. He repeats it, his voice low at first, hoarse from years of screaming in pain. Malgus, the second time louder. Malgus, and the third time it is no longer just his voice, it is a declaration, a roar, a promise. Malgus! The torches flare as if the word itself has set the air on fire. You feel it in your gut. The boy is gone. The child who once cried in the darkness, who once stumbled under the blows of his masters, who once trembled in the face of beasts, that child has been consumed. In his place stands Malgus. The mask has been sealed onto him, invisible yet unbreakable, and you realize, with a cold twist in your stomach, that he will never take it off. The masters step forward, placing a hand upon his shoulders. Not with affection, not with pride, with ownership. Malgus is theirs now, their creation, their blade. They speak to him of what the name means, of what he will carry. Malgus is not just a sound, it is expectation, it is power, it is a future drenched in blood, and Malgus accepts it because there is no other choice. You watch as he rises to his feet. His body is battered, covered in scars, still bleeding from wounds that haven't healed. But he stands taller now, straighter. His eyes no longer dart to the ground. He meets their gazes without fear. He has found something to hold on to. Not family, not love, but identity. A name that burns like fire in his chest. You hear the whispers ripple through the acolytes who watch from the shadows. Some sneer, some stare in silence, but all of them know the truth. The boy is dead, and something far more dangerous has taken his place. Malgus is not just another name among theirs. Malgus carries weight even before he earns it. The air grows colder, the silence stretches, and then the ceremony ends. The masters leave as they came, silent, shadowed, their robes brushing against the stone. The torches dim, the whispers fade, and you are left alone with him. Malgus. He stands in the center of the chamber, breathing hard, his chest rising and falling. Each inhale is sharp, deliberate, like the forging of steel. You can hear the thoughts churning inside him. This is who I am now. This is who I will be, forever. He presses a hand to his chest, feeling the scars beneath. Each one is a memory, each one a step toward this moment. And now, he knows they were not punishment. They were proof that he was meant to survive when others did not, proof that he was meant to carry this name. But as you watch him, you feel something else stir within him, a darkness that is no longer just the product of his masters, no longer just the cruelty of training. It is something deeper, more primal. The beast he faced in the pit was only the beginning. The real beast has been born inside him, and now, with the name Malgus binding it to flesh, there is no turning back. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because the moment you took your name, you weren't just becoming someone, you were losing everything else you could have been. He turns, walking out of the chamber. His footsteps echo in the empty hall, heavier now, carrying the weight of destiny. You follow him in silence, feeling the stone cold beneath your feet, smelling the lingering smoke of the torches, hearing the distant growl of the temple itself. The walls seem to whisper his name as he passes. Malgus. Malgus, Malgus. Outside, the night sky of Korriban stretches above him, red and starless. The wind howls through the valleys, carrying sand and ash that sting the skin, grind against the teeth, coat the tongue in grit. Malgus does not flinch. He breathes it in, as if the harsh air itself is proof that he belongs here. His eyes scan the horizon, not with fear but with hunger. Hunger for power, hunger for war, hunger for something greater than this planet of shadows. For a moment you wonder what he is thinking. Does he feel pride, rage, emptiness? Perhaps all three. But you know one thing for certain. Whatever he feels, it is buried beneath the mask of his new name, Malgus. And that mask will never slip. The other acolytes keep their distance. Some mutter behind his back, some lower their eyes. None dare to challenge him now. He is no longer one of them. He has stepped above, onto a path that leads only to blood. And deep down, you feel a chill. Because names are not just words, they are destinies. And the destiny of Malgus will leave the galaxy burning. The wind screams louder, rattling through the stone ruins of the valley. You pull your cloak tighter around yourself, but Malgus stands tall, his face turned into the storm. Ash clings to his skin, dust stings his eyes, but he does not blink. He welcomes it. Because in his heart, he knows the truth. He is not just a survivor anymore. He is a conqueror in the making. The torches of the temple flicker behind him, their glow casting long shadows across the sand. His figure is tall, sharp-edged, outlined against the blood-red sky. And as you look at him, you realize you are no longer watching a child shaped by cruelty. You are watching a weapon sharpened to a fine edge, a weapon with a name that will echo through history. Malgus. The word still feels heavy in your mouth, like iron pressed against your tongue. You know what it means now. It is not just the mask he wears, it is the blade he is sharpening himself into. And soon, that blade will cut through the galaxy. But as he stands in the storm, breathing in the ashes of the dead, you hear something else. Not laughter, not whispers, a roar, low, distant, carried on the wind from the training pits below. Another beast, another trial. And you know, with icy certainty, that Malgus's new name will be tested sooner than he thinks, because a mask is only as strong as the blood it's baptized in. It begins with a whisper, not of war, not of rage, but of something far stranger in the world of the Sith. A whisper of gentleness, so fragile you almost mistake it for weakness. But weakness doesn't survive on Korriban, not in the training pits, not in the endless halls of stone where blood dries faster than tears. No, this is something else, something rarer, something forbidden. You are standing in the aftermath of battle. The air is thick with smoke, black plumes twisting upward into a sky the color of dying embers. Fires crackle around you, chewing through broken walls and shattered statues. The ground is wet with blood, some of it fresh, some of it already turning dark and sticky in the heat. The taste of iron coats your tongue. Your ears ring with the echoes of screams, cut short too quickly to linger. And in the middle of that chaos stands Malgus. He is taller now, stronger, his presence commanding even as dust and ash cling to his skin. His blade is still warm from cutting through soldiers and Jedi alike. His chest rises and falls with the rhythm of a predator who has fed well, and yet, in the shadow of fire, his eyes shift towards something else, towards someone. You follow his gaze and see her, a Twi'lek slave, bound in chains, her leku draped across her shoulders like fragile ribbons. Her skin is pale blue, glowing softly against the flames. Her body is thin, worn down by years of servitude, but her eyes are alive, bright, unbroken. You can almost feel the weight of her gaze pressing into Malgus's chest, not with fear but with defiance. The soldiers who captured her shove her forward, laughing, jeering. To them she is nothing more than a trophy of war, another body to sell, another soul to break. But Malgus steps forward, his shadow falling across her. The laughter dies in their throats. His presence silences them. His hand hovers near his blade, a poem, and that is enough. They back away, their grins faltering. The air grows heavy, expectant. Malgus studies her. His eyes flick across the chains, the bruises, the defiance etched into her jaw. He is not looking at a slave. He is looking at something else, something even he does not yet understand. He speaks her name for the first time, his voice low, gravelly, carried on the hiss of smoke. Elena. And the name lingers, sweeter than it has any right to be in a place so foul. You feel it in your bones. Something shifts in him at that moment. The boy forged into a beast, hardened by scars and sharpened by rage, feels a crack open in the armor of his soul. Through that crack, light spills in, and it terrifies him. The night grows darker, the flames lower, but he cannot shake her presence. She moves beside him now, her chains gone, though the marks of them still scar her skin. Her breath is quick, sharp, every inhale tasting of smoke and fear, but she does not cower. When she looks at him, her eyes do not see a Sith, not a monster, not a conqueror. They see the man beneath, and that is something Malgus has never known. Days turn into weeks. You feel the rhythm of war continue around them, battles fought, temples sacked, blood spilled in rivers. But always in the quiet moments between, she is there, Elena. She tends his wounds with hands too gentle for this world. She speaks softly when the rest of the galaxy screams. You smell herbs on her skin, faint and soothing, so different from the stench of smoke and sweat that clings to him. She is not the fire of war. She is the candle in the dark. And Malgus clings to that light, even as he refuses to admit it, because in his heart he knows the truth. Love is not meant for Sith. Love is a chain. Love is a weakness. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because the one thing you crave most is the one thing you are forbidden to have, yet he cannot let go. You see him in the dead of night, when the fires burn low and the battlefield sleeps. He lies beside her, his breathing slow, his hand resting near hers. For the first time his scars do not ache. For the first time his nightmares do not claw at him. In her presence the beast inside him is quiet, and that silence feels like peace. But peace does not last. Not here, not for him. The masters know. Of course they do. They watch everything, their eyes sharper than blades, their whispers colder than ice. They see the way his gaze lingers on her. They see the way his hand tightens when she is near danger. And they despise it, because to them, love is a flaw. Love is a crack in the weapon they have spent years forging, and a cracked blade is no blade at all. One of them confronts him. You hear the words hissed into his ear. She will be your undoing. The voice echoes, rattling against the walls of his skull, wrapping around his thoughts like a serpent. He knows they are right, and yet, when he looks at her, when he feels her hand on his skin, he cannot imagine letting her go. The war rages on. More blood, more fire. Malgus cuts through Jedi and soldier alike, his blade screaming with fury. But you notice it now. His rage is sharper, more desperate when she is near. When Elena is threatened, his strength grows. When she is safe, his fury quiets. She is not his weakness. She is his anchor. And that frightens him more than death ever could. There is a night when the battle is over, the enemy dead, the ground soaked in blood. Malgus stands in the ruins, his chest heaving, sweat dripping from his brow, and Elena is there, her hand on his cheek, her eyes searching his. She whispers something you cannot quite hear, soft as the rustle of leaves, gentle as rain, and for the briefest of moments, his mask slips. You see the man beneath, the boy who once cried. In the darkness, the boy who once asked why he had been born to pain. You see him, and you realize, she is the only one who can. But the galaxy does not allow softness. And love, in the arms of a Sith, is always doomed, because there will come a day when the Masters demand proof that Malgus is not chained by emotion, proof that he has not been weakened by the light in his darkness. And on that day, he will be forced to choose between the one thing that makes him human and the destiny that demands he be a monster. You feel it already, the inevitability pressing in, heavy as stone. You can almost taste the bitterness of the choice lingering on your tongue. You can almost hear the silence that will follow her final breath. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even when you find something worth living for, the dark side always finds a way to take it from you. The wind rises, carrying the smell of smoke and blood. Alina's laughter drifts through the night, soft and fleeting, like a melody carried on the breeze. Malgus closes his eyes, letting it wash over him. But you know, and he knows, that it will not last. That laughter is a candle flame in a storm, beautiful, fragile, doomed to be extinguished. And when it goes out, there will be nothing left of the man beneath the mask, only the monster. You hear it before you see it, the low rumble of engines, thousands of them, shaking the void. You are standing at the edge of space, watching as a black tide of warships gathers, their hulls glinting with crimson light. They stretch across the stars like a storm front, endless, suffocating. The silence of the galaxy is shattered by the hum of hyperdrives spinning, the groan of metal yearning to tear into the heart of the Republic. And at the head of that tide stands Malgus. His figure fills the command deck, taller, broader now, armored in dark plates that glimmer like obsidian. His breath is steady, cold, each inhale rattling through lungs already scarred from years of war. His eyes burn with hunger, fixed on a single target. Ahead of him lies Coruscant, the jewel of the Republic, the seat of the Jedi, the city planet that has never truly fallen, until now. You feel the air tighten around you as he raises his hand, fingers curling into a fist. The signal is silent, but every ship obeys. In an instant, the stars stretch, warp, and vanish as the Sith armada surges forward. The galaxy bends around you, the tunnel of hyperspace engulfing your vision in streaks of blue fire. Your heart pounds in your chest, the rhythm quickening, knowing what waits on the other side. And then, impact. Coruscant bursts into view. The city shines, towers of durasteel and glass rising like spires into the heavens. Traffic streams between them, lights flickering in an endless web of civilization. For a heartbeat, it almost looks untouchable. But then the storm arrives. The Sith ships break formation, black wings unfolding like predators stretching their talons. The first wave descends, and the night sky of Coruscant becomes fire. Explosions ripple across the atmosphere, blossoms of orange and red that reflect against the towers below. You hear the alarms wailing, shrill and desperate, echoing across the city. People look up in terror as the sky itself begins to fall. Malgus stands at the viewport, silent, unblinking, as if this is the moment he has been waiting for his entire life. And in truth, it is. Every scar, every scream, every drop of blood that led him here, all of it was for this, the burning of the Republic's heart. You are there when the first blast strikes the Jedi Temple. The shockwave rattles the city, windows shattering in towers miles away. Statues crumble, their faces disintegrating in clouds of dust. You can taste ash in your mouth, bitter and sharp, coating your throat. The temple's great spires, once beacons of light, are now engulfed in smoke and flame. The galaxy screams, and its scream is carried on the wind of fire. Republic gunships scramble, their engines roaring as they weave through the falling debris. Jedi leap into the chaos, blades igniting, their glow piercing the smoke. But against the tide of Sith soldiers pouring from dropships, against the fury of Malgus himself, their light is small, fragile, flickering candles in a hurricane. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because no matter how bright your light burned, the darkness was always waiting to smother it. You feel the heat of the flames against your skin, hear the thunder of explosions that shake the streets. Civilians scream, running in every direction, their cries rising into a single chorus of panic. Mothers clutch children, lovers pull each other through the smoke, and everywhere you look, the red glow of Sith blades cuts through the night. Malgus leads the charge, his saber a scarlet arc of fury. You watch him carve through Jedi defenders, each strike brutal, deliberate. His breath rasps through the chaos, in and out, steady as a drumbeat of inevitability. No hesitation. No mercy. He is not here to duel, he is here to slaughter. You see him clash with a Jedi Knight at the foot of the temple stairs. The knight's blade hums with desperate energy, his movements fast, graceful. But Malgus fights with weight, with power, with the rage of a storm bottled inside his chest. Sparks shower as blades meet, the smell of ozone sharp in the air, and then with a roar, Malgus slams the knight back, his strength overwhelming. The Jedi stumbles, trips on the shattered stone, and Malgus's blade cuts him down. His scream dies in the roar of the flames. You can feel the heat rising higher, choking you. The temple is collapsing now, its walls splitting, its roof caving in. The holocrons burn, the archives shatter, centuries of history consumed in minutes. The Jedi's most sacred sanctuary is reduced to rubble, and Malgus stands at its heart, a silhouette against the inferno. His breath echoes, steady, almost calm, as if destruction itself has become his meditation. The city is chaos. Speeder traffic plummets into flames. Towers collapse into the streets below. Every inhale tastes of smoke. Every exhale rattles with fear. And above it all, the Sith fleet hovers, their guns lighting the sky in endless arcs of fire. The ground trembles beneath you, and you realize it is not just a battle, it is not just war, it is annihilation. Through the smoke you catch sight of Alina. Her eyes are wide, her face streaked with ash. She clings to the edge of the battlefield, following him, watching him. You feel her fear, not of him, but for him. Because she sees something no one else can. She sees the man beneath the mask, drowning beneath the tide of his own fury. She reaches out, her voice lost in the roar of fire, and for a fleeting second, Malgus's gaze flickers to hers. A second where he is not a monster, not a conqueror, just a man. But the second is gone. Another Jedi charges and the storm consumes him once more. You hear? The Republic's desperate cries over comm channels, voices breaking, calling for reinforcements that will never arrive in time. You see soldiers fight to the last breath, their blaster fire sparking against the Sith's armor before they are cut down. You watch Jedi fall, one by one, their bodies littering the temple steps. And all the while, Malgus climbs higher, carving his way through stone and flesh alike, his saber leaving scars across the Republic's soul. The air grows so hot your lungs burn with every breath. Ash clings to your skin, sticky, foul. The flames roar higher, swallowing entire districts. The city of 1 trillion souls is burning, and the smell of it, charred metal, burning flesh, crumbling stone, fills your nose until you think you'll choke. And through it all, Malgus does not falter. His voice carries above the fire, above the screams, above the collapse of towers. He roars, and the galaxy itself seems to shake. For him, this is not destruction. This is birth, the birth of a new order, the rebirth of the Sith Empire. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because in this moment, in the burning of their sacred temple, they were no longer guardians of peace. They were victims of inevitability. The temple crumbles at last, its final spire collapsing into the street with a thunderous crash. A shockwave tears through the city, knocking people from their feet, rattling Dura-steel for miles. Dust clouds rise into the air, blotting out the stars, suffocating the night. And when it clears, all that remains is ruin. Malgus stands at the center of it, his armor scorched, his blade still burning, his breath steady through the rasp of his lungs. He looks upon the destruction, and there is no triumph in his face, only certainty. This is what he was made for. This is what he was named for. Malgus is not a man. Malgus is the fire that consumes the galaxy. But as the flames roar around him, as the city screams beneath his feet, you hear another sound, a voice carried faintly on the comms, broken, desperate, but alive. Republic reinforcements, Jedi reinforcements. They are on their way. The battle is not over. The storm has only just begun. The fire is still burning. You can feel it licking the edges of your skin, searing your lungs every time you try to breathe. The city around you is a graveyard of ash and flame. Towers split open like ribs cracked apart to expose the heart beneath. The Jedi temple smolders behind Malgus, broken spires glowing red as molten stone drips into the streets. The Republic's greatest sanctuary has been gutted, but the war is not finished. No, this is where the true test begins. You hear it before you see it, the low hum of blades igniting, one after another, a rising chorus of light cutting through the smoke. It is not the scattered, desperate resistance of young Padawans or soldiers. This sound carries weight, carries history. The masters are coming, the last line of defense, the ones who cannot allow their temple to fall without a fight, and they come not as whispers, not as shadows, but as a storm of light. The fire shifts as the Jedi emerge, their sabers glowing through the haze like beacons, blue, green, even the rare yellow, cutting swaths of brilliance into the smoke. The clash of their boots against stone echoes like thunder rolling closer and closer. You taste copper on your tongue, the blood of those already fallen, and you know you are about to witness something carved into the bones of history. Malgus stands at the gate, broad and unyielding, his armor scorched black from the inferno. Each breath rattles through his lungs, harsh, mechanical, the sound of a predator who refuses to collapse no matter how broken the body beneath may be. Smoke clings to his skin, his face blackened with soot, but his eyes, they are alive. They blaze with the fire of someone who cannot be stopped. He inhales smoke, exhales fury, and then he lifts his blade. The clash comes instantly. Jedi Masters charge through the flames, their sabers crashing against his with the fury of lightning splay. Hitting the sky, sparks explode, sizzling against scorched stone, illuminating the battlefield for heartbeats at a time. The sound is deafening, metal and plasma screaming with every strike. Each impact shakes your bones, rattling the ground beneath your feet. The Force itself seems to tremble under the weight of their power. You see Malgus stagger once, his chest convulsing as his broken lungs choke on smoke. He coughs, blood flecking his lips. For an instant you wonder if this is the moment he falls, but then he roars, a sound so guttural it shakes the walls of the ruined temple, a sound not of a man, but of a beast refusing to die. He swings with brutal precision, hammering against the Jedi with strength born not of grace, but of sheer, unstoppable rage. Blades crash again and again, sweat burns in your eyes, dripping into your mouth with the taste of salt and ash. The heat from the sabers is overwhelming, the hiss of each swing hot enough to singe the hairs on your arms. The air reeks of ozone, scorched metal, and the acrid stench of burning flesh. Every sense is flooded, sight blinded by sparks, ears ringing with the scream of plasma, lungs choked by smoke, and yet you cannot look away. One master leaps, his blade arcing toward Malgus's chest. Malgus catches it with his own, their sabers locking in a shower of sparks. For a heartbeat, they are face to face, eyes burning into each other. You feel the weight of that stare, the Jedi's calm determination meeting Malgus's raw, unyielding fury. The Jedi whispers something, words lost in the chaos, but Malgus doesn't need to hear. He knows what it means, surrender. And he answers with a snarl, driving his knee into the Jedi's chest, snapping ribs with a sickening crack. The Jedi gasps, staggered, and Malgus slams his blade down. The red saber cuts through green, shattering it, consuming it. The Jedi collapses in fire, his body swallowed by smoke. The others press harder now, their sabers a blur of color, their movements precise, practiced, honed over decades of discipline. They fight like dancers, their strikes fluid, their defense perfect. Malgus is the opposite, raw power, brutal swings, each strike aimed to kill, not to control. It is elegance against savagery, harmony against chaos. And yet, somehow, he holds his ground. You hear his breathing falter again, his chest rattling, every inhale a knife twisting in his ribs. His body should fail him. No one should be able to keep fighting like this. But Malgus is not just anyone. He is rage given form. He is the embodiment of a truth the Sith hold sacred. Pain is fuel, and he is burning brighter than ever. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because no matter how refined your skills, no matter how sharp your blade, sometimes you are standing against someone who will not stop, who cannot stop, who would rather burn alive than kneel. The duel drags on, each second an eternity. Sweat stings your eyes, blood hammers in your ears, your heart racing in rhythm with the clash of blades. You watch as Malgus deflects a strike from the left, spins to block one from the right, then lunges forward, his saber cutting through the chest of another Jedi. The scream is brief, drowned out by the roar of fire, and then silence as the body falls. The masters falter, not because they are weak, but because they begin to understand. This is not just a battle, this is inevitability. Malgus cannot be bargained with, cannot be reasoned with. He is not fighting for victory. He is fighting because it is the only thing he knows. The ground shakes as part of the temple collapses behind them, a tower crumbling into the street with a roar that drowns out everything else. Dust clouds the air, choking your lungs, blinding your vision. And through that dust, you see them, shapes moving, blades ignity. Bang, the fight continuing in flashes of light. It is chaos given form, beauty and horror colliding in a storm of sparks. Your throat burns, your chest aches. You want to close your eyes, to turn away, but you can't, because you know this moment will echo for centuries. This is the day the galaxy saw the Republic's heart bleed. This is the day the Jedi stood against a monster and could not stop him. Another master falls, another body crumples to the stone, saber extinguished. Malgus stands taller now, though his chest heaves, his body trembling from exhaustion. His armor is scorched, cracked. His face is a mask of soot and blood, and yet his eyes burn hotter than the flames around him. The last of the Jedi charge, desperation in their movements. Their sabers clash against his, a desperate flurry of strikes. He blocks, deflects, counters, each movement precise despite the weight of exhaustion dragging at his limbs. And then, with a roar, he unleashes the Force. The shockwave tears through the gates, a blast of power so raw it rips stone from the ground, sending Jedi flying. The air itself screams as dust and fire erupt outward. You are thrown back, the impact rattling your bones, the taste of ash and blood sharp in your mouth. When you open your eyes, you see them, bodies broken, sabers extinguished, silence spreading through the ruin, and at the center of it stands Malgus, alone, victorious. His blade hums softly, the only sound in the stillness. He breathes in smoke, breathes out fire. He does not fall, he will not fall, not here, not ever. But then, through the silence, you hear it. A sound faint at first, then louder. Marching, dozens of boots striking stone in perfect rhythm. Another wave. Republic soldiers, more Jedi, reinforcements pouring through the streets, their blades igniting once more. The duel at the gates is over. The war for the city has just begun. You open your eyes to silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence that comes after a battlefield has been stripped bare of life. The kind of silence that feels wrong, heavy, like the galaxy itself is holding its breath. Coruscant lies in ruins behind you. Temples shattered, towers blackened, bodies smoldering in the streets. Smoke still coils upward in thin, lazy ribbons, clinging to your skin, clinging to your lungs, refusing to let you forget what was done here. And in the middle of it all stands Malgus. His armor is cracked, his lungs still rattle with every breath, but his eyes blaze with something fierce. Victory. For the first time in centuries, the Republic has been brought to its knees. The Sith Armada carved its name into the galaxy's beating heart. The Jedi Temple lies in ashes. Malgus had dreamed of this moment for years, and now it is here. But victory doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like chains. You hear the whispers first. Politicians, Sith Lords, envoys, all their voices mingling into a single grating drone. They speak of treaties, of negotiations, of lines drawn on maps that mean more to them than rivers of blood spilled in the streets. They call it the Treaty of Coruscant. Words written on paper, designed to dress up surrender in the clothing of diplomacy. You hear them in the Senate chambers, voices slick as oil, talking of balance, of rebuilding, of peace. Peace. The word tastes bitter on your tongue. To Malgus it tastes like poison. You stand beside him as he listens to the announcement, the terms delivered with pomp and ceremony, as if the galaxy is supposed to bow its head in gratitude. He feels it coil around his throat like a rope, tightening with every syllable. A treaty, a pause, a leash. After everything he had bled for, after the temple fell, after the fire and ash, now they are told to stop, to accept half a victory when they could have taken it all. You see his fists clench, his jaw tighten, every muscle in his body screaming to break something, to kill something, to scream. But he doesn't. Not here, not yet. His silence is heavier than the flames of war. The Sith win, yes. They have humbled the Republic, broken the Jedi's sanctuary. But in the end, the politicians in their robes and councils twisted into something smaller, weaker. They call it compromise. Malgus calls it betrayal. He had stood at the gates of the Jedi Temple, fire at his back, blood on his blade. He had watched Coruscant choke on smoke. And for what? For Sith Lords to trade his fire for ink on parchment? That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because even when you carved victory from the galaxy's bones, the ones above you would chain it, smother it, weaken it until it meant nothing. You feel the rage burning in him, hotter than any star. He remembers the sound of Jedi screams, the sight of statues crumbling, the taste of ash in his mouth, and he knows it could have gone further, should have gone further. The Republic was bleeding, the Jedi were broken, all it would have taken was one more push, one more strike, and the galaxy would have belonged to the Sith. But instead, they stopped. They shackled him in peace. And to Malgus, peace feels worse than defeat. He stands in the war room, maps projected in blue light across the table, showing lines and borders of territory won and lost. The other Sith Lords murmur with satisfaction, their voices smug as they talk of strategy and long-term advantage. Malgus hears none of it. His breath hisses in and out, slow, dangerous. His eyes linger not on the map, but on the edges of it, on what could have been his, if only they had not bowed. Alina is there at the edge of the chamber. She watches him with careful eyes, sensing the storm building inside him. Her presence is the only thing that keeps him from drawing his blade and cutting down the weak, simpering voices that surround him. When her gaze meets his for a heartbeat, the storm quiets, but not for long, never for long. You feel his thoughts gnawing at themselves, restless and sharp. Why did I bleed if not for victory? Why did I kill if not to end this war forever? Why am I told to bow when I have already conquered? The treaty is supposed to feel like triumph, but to Malgus it feels like humiliation. Every word the Sith diplomats speak, every promise of balance, is another chain around his neck, and Malgus has never worn chains well. You walk with him through the streets of Coruscant days later as the Republic rebuilds. Workers clear rubble, droids sift through ash, survivors wander like ghosts through ruins that used to be their homes. The smell of burnt stone and flesh still lingers, the taste of smoke still thick on the air. And yet, life stirs again. The Republic clings to survival, stubborn, resilient. Malgus sees it in their eyes, the spark that refuses to die. And he hates it, because he knows the truth. The fire should have finished them. He should have finished them. Instead, they live, they rebuild, and in their rebuilding, he feels his victory slipping, hollowing, becoming nothing more than a scar on the surface of a city too proud to fall. At night, he returns to the temple ruins. He walks among the shattered stones, the broken statues of Jedi masters, the ashes of knowledge that once filled these halls. His boots crunch against debris, echoing in the emptiness. He breathes in smoke, but the flames are gone now, replaced by silence. And in that silence, he feels the weight of the treaty pressing down harder than any battle ever did. He kneels among the rubble, pressing a hand to the scorched floor where Jedi blood once flowed. His lips curl in disgust. This should have been the end. Instead, it was only the beginning of another chain. You can hear the vow form in his chest, heavy and sharp. He swears he will never bow again. Not to the Republic, not to the Jedi, not even to the Emperor himself. He has given everything, his blood, his lungs, his fury, and still they dared to leash him. That leash will break. One day soon, he will make sure of it. But even as he makes this vow, you feel the danger of it. To defy the Republic is one thing. To defy the Jedi is expected. But to defy the Emperor? To spit in the face of the dark hand that raised him? That is another matter entirely. And yet Malgus feels no fear. Only rage, only hunger. Only the certainty that chains cannot hold him forever. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because even when you carved fire into the galaxy, the strongest leash you wore was not forged by your enemies. It was forged by your own masters. Alina finds him among the ruins one night. Her hand brushes against his arm, her voice soft, reminding him he is not alone. For a moment her presence is enough, but deep inside you feel it. The vow, simmering, growing stronger. She cannot stop it. No one can. Malgus has seen the galaxy burn, and he will not stop until it burns again. This time, without chains. The ashes of Coruscant cling to his armor as he rises, as he turns his back on the ruins, on the treaty, on the lie of peace. He breathes in the smoke, letting it fill his lungs, letting it remind him of what he truly is. He is not a soldier for the Emperor. He is not a pawn for politicians. He is Malgus, a storm, a fire, a blade that will not be sheathed. And as he walks into the night, the shadows close around him. You feel the weight of what is coming, because when Malgus breaks his chains, the galaxy will bleed for it. You open your eyes to the faintest sound, not the roar of fire, not the clash of blades, not the scream of soldiers dying in the dirt. This sound is softer, gentle breathing in the dark, a rhythm so fragile it barely exists in the galaxy Malgus inhabits, and for a heartbeat, you forget the weight of war, the endless smoke, the endless chains. For a heartbeat, it feels almost like peace. You turn your head, and you see her, Alina. Her skin, pale blue, catches what little light seeps into the chamber. Her eyes are closed, her face relaxed, her chest rising and falling in slow waves. She sleeps, curled on her side, her lekku draped across her shoulders. The world beyond the walls is chaos, but here, in this room, she is calm. She is safety. She is the only thing left that makes him human. Malgus sits beside her, his armor discarded, his scarred chest exposed to the cool air. The scars are everywhere, burned lines across his ribs, jagged ridges along his shoulders, cuts that never fully healed. Each one a story of survival, each one a wound carved by the galaxy. But when her hand had touched them, she never recoiled. When she had traced her fingers over them, she had whispered that they were proof of his strength, proof that he could endure. You can feel it in him now, the way his chest tightens when he looks at her, the way his breath catches. This is not the fear of battle. This is not the rage of war. This is something far more dangerous to a Sith. This is love, and he knows what it means. He remembers the whispers of the masters, the warnings. Love will be your undoing. He remembers the chain of the treaty, the politicians twisting his victory into weakness. He remembers the leash of the Emperor, always pulling him back. And now, when he looks at Alina, he sees another leash. Softer, yes, kinder, but a leash all the same. You can feel the battle raging inside him. The man who craves her touch, who longs for her voice, who feels, if only for a moment, like he is more than a weapon. And the Sith who knows that mercy, softness, love are all death. He cannot serve two masters, his hunger for power and his hunger for her. One of them must break. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even when you found someone who made you whole, the dark side demanded you tear them apart. The night is heavy with silence. He watches her sleep, the firelight flickering across her skin. His hand hovers near her face, trembling, not from fear of battle, but from fear of what he is about to do. You can hear his thoughts, sharp and desperate. If I let her live, I will be weak. If I let her stay, they will take her from me. If I love her, I cannot be free. He leans closer, his breath shallow. His hand brushes her cheek and she stirs. Her eyes open, wide and soft, searching his. She smiles, just a small smile, enough to make his chest ache. She whispers his name, not Malgus, not the title carved into him by the Sith. She whispers the name beneath the mask, the name almost forgotten. For a moment, the storm inside him calms. For a moment, he wants to let the galaxy burn, as long as he can keep this. But the moment passes. He grips her throat. The shock in her eyes is immediate, her breath caught in her chest, her hands reaching up to his. Her voice is choked, broken, but she tries to speak, to call his name again. His grip tightens, his muscles tremble, his jaw clenches, his teeth grind together. You can feel it tearing him apart. Every scar he has endured, every battle he has fought, none of it compares to this. This is the hardest fight of his life, not against her, but against himself. Her eyes lock onto his, wide, pleading, not in fear, not in anger, but in sorrow. She knows, she understands. Even as her breath falters, even as her body weakens, she understands him, and that is what makes it unbearable. Because she is not fighting him, she is letting him go. You hear the silence stretch, heavy and suffocating, broken only by her strangled gasps. His breath rattles in his chest, smoke-stained lungs burning with each inhale. His eyes water, though no tears fall. Sith do not cry, Sith do not mourn, but you can feel the crack in him widening, breaking, and then her body goes still. The silence after is colder than any scream. The firelight flickers, the shadows shift, but no sound follows. No breath, no whisper, no heartbeat. She is gone. He releases her, and her body falls limp onto the sheets. His hands hover above her, stained with the weight of what he has done. The room feels colder now, the air thin, empty. The candlelight that once seemed warm now feels mocking, cruel. He stares at her face, peaceful now, her eyes closed, as if she is only sleeping, as if she might wake at any moment and smile at him again. But she won't. He has silenced the only light in his life. He has extinguished the only flame that kept him human. You can hear his thoughts, hollow and broken. I had no choice. I had no choice. I had no choice. But he knows. Deep inside, he knows he did. And he chose the mask. He chose Malgus. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because love could never last. The room is heavy, suffocating. He rises, his body trembling, his breath uneven. The mask of Malgus is iron on his face now, unbreakable. The man beneath it is gone, buried with her. He picks up his armor, piece by piece, each plate heavier than it was before, not because of the weight of Durasteel, but because of the emptiness pressing down on him. He does not bury her. He does not weep. He does not speak her name again. To do so would be weakness. To remember would be pain. He leaves her body where it lies, the silence of the room broken only by his footsteps echoing against the cold stone. When he steps into the night, the air is bitter, cold. The stars above feel distant, mocking. The galaxy stretches endless before him, but it feels smaller now, emptier. He breathes in the night air, harsh and sharp against his lungs, and swears to himself he will never allow this again. Never again will he be chained by something soft. Never again will he allow love to make him weak. But even as he swears it, you feel the truth clawing at the edges of his soul. He is weaker now, not because of Alina, but because of what he has done. He has killed the only part of himself that was still human, and in its place stands only Malgus. The wind howls through the ruins around him, carrying the faint scent of ash, the faint echo of her laughter. He does not turn back. He cannot. He walks into the darkness, into the storm, into the destiny that now feels colder than ever. But as he walks, you feel something else stir in the shadows. Whispers of dissent, rumors of rebellion. The chains of the treaty tighten. The leash of the Emperor grows heavier, and Malgus, broken and hollow, is walking straight toward the edge. The breaking of Alina is not the end of him. It is only the beginning of the monster he will become. You open your eyes to darkness, not the empty dark of a cavern, not the soft dark of sleep, but the heavy, suffocating dark that comes when power itself is watching. You feel it pressing against your skin, crawling into your lungs, filling your veins with ice. This is not a room. This is not a chamber. This is the Emperor's presence, looming, endless, unseen, yet undeniable. And Malgus stands at the center of it, a wolf summoned before his master. The air smells of incense, thick and cloying, as if meant to mask the stench of fear that always lingers in this place. Torches sputter weakly against the shadows, their flames thin, fragile, swallowed by the gloom. You hear nothing but the slow rasp of Malgus's breath, mechanical and strained, echoing through the silence. His hands are clenched at his sides, the leather of his gloves creaking, his muscles trembling, not from fear, but from the fury of restraint. Because every step he takes forward, every victory carved in blood, is still under a shadow greater than his own, the shadow of the Emperor. You can feel it in his chest, the hunger that never fades. Malgus has slaughtered Jedi, burned Coruscant, broken armies, and yet none of it is truly his. Every conquest is credited to the Empire. Every victory is claimed by the Emperor. Malgus is their blunt instrument, their sharpened fang, nothing more. And the weight of that truth burns him worse than any wound. He kneels because that is what the leash demands. His body bows, though his spirit snarls. His head lowers, though his eyes blaze upward through the smoke. He does not speak because to speak unbidden is defiance. And still, you feel it in him. Every fiber of his being screaming against the act. The Emperor's voice cuts through the air like a blade dipped in oil, smooth, cold, inhuman. It is not sound you hear, but thought pressed into your skull, searing, undeniable. The words are simple. You serve, you obey, you conquer when I command, and you stop when I decree. Each syllable is a chain tightening around his throat. He feels them, links forged of shadow and silence, binding him tighter than any iron could. He is their wolf, yes, but a wolf, muzzled, collared, dragged on a leash toward battles not of his choosing. You see his fists clench tighter, his jaw grinding, his teeth ache from the pressure. He wants to rise, to roar, to shatter the silence with his defiance. He wants to stand as the master, not the servant, to claim what he has earned, not beg for what he is given. But he does not here. Not yet. The leash holds. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even the strongest wolves were still made to bow. He leaves the chamber in silence, the Emperor's voice still clawing at the edges of his thoughts. His boots echo against the stone floors of Dromund Kaas, each step a drumbeat of fury. Outside, the storm rages, the endless storm that coils around the Emperor's throne world, lightning splitting the sky, rain slicing against metal and stone. Malgus stands in it, the water pounding against his armor, seeping into the cracks, washing soot from his scars. He breathes the storm in, lets it fill his lungs, and even here, even now, He feels the leash tighten. The Empire praises him. Soldiers whisper his name with awe, with fear. His victories have made him a legend among them. To them, Malgus is unstoppable, the fist of the Empire, the blade that cuts deepest. But in the council chambers, in the Emperor's halls, he is still a tool. The credit flows upward, the leash shortens, and Malgus snarls in silence. You feel the storm inside him build, hotter with every passing day. He remembers Alina. He remembers her hand on his chest, her voice soft in the dark, the only one who ever saw him as more than a weapon. And he remembers how he ended her, how he chose chains over her. He thought it would make him stronger. But now, all he feels is emptiness, and that emptiness howls at the leash still digging into his neck. He trains harder, fights longer, throws himself into battle after battle. Each clash is another attempt to prove himself, to prove he is more than the Emperor's pet. You hear the clash of sabers, the screams of dying Jedi, the thunder of cannons. You smell the smoke, the blood, the ozone of blaster fire, and through it all, Malgus roars, his blade carving arcs of fire across every battlefield. And yet, when the dust settles, the reports flow upward. Not Malgus won, not Malgus conquered, always the Empire triumphed under the will of the Emperor. The leash yanks tighter with every word. One night, he stands alone in the ruins of a Republic outpost, the walls still smoldering, bodies scattered across the ground. The air stinks of charred flesh, of melted durasteel. He looks around at the carnage, his chest heaving, sweat and blood dripping from his skin. His soldiers cheer his name, their voices rising like thunder. But above it all, louder than their chants, he hears the Emperor's voice again. You serve. You obey. His fist slams into the wall, stone shattering beneath his hand. His roar cuts through the night, drowning the storm above. And in that roar, you hear it, his vow. No leash will hold me forever. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because no matter how much blood you spilled, your masters would always demand more. The nights grow longer. The leash grows tighter. Malgus feels the cracks widening inside him. His eyes blaze hotter. His rage burns brighter. His patience frays thinner. He is a wolf in chains, yes, but wolves bite. Wolves break, and wolves who taste blood never forget it. You see him in the council chambers, standing among the other Sith Lords. Their voices drone on, smug, self-satisfied, each one scheming, plotting, maneuvering for power without ever touching a blade. They sneer at him, at his scars, at his blunt force, at the simplicity of his methods. To them, Malgus is a beast, nothing more. Useful, but never equal. And you feel his fury boiling beneath the surface. He wants to cut them down where they stand, silence their laughter with blood. But the leash holds, for now. He leaves the chamber, his boots echoing through the halls. His breath rattles, his fists clench, his eyes blaze. You can feel the storm building, inevitable, unstoppable. Malgus is not meant to be leashed, not by politicians, not by Sith Lords, not even by the Emperor. And one day soon, he will bite through the chains. But in the silence of his chambers, in the dead of night, another sound stirs. A whisper, a rumor, dissidents within the Empire. Whispers of rebellion, of Sith who dream of an order unchained, of power unshackled from the throne. Their voices are faint, but they reach his ears. And in that whisper, Malgus hears something he has not felt in years. Opportunity. The leash is still there, tight around his throat, but now, for the first time, he feels his teeth pressing against it. And he knows, when the moment comes, he will tear it apart. You open your eyes to whispers. They slither through the halls of Dromund Kaas like smoke, curling around pillars, echoing off stone, impossible to pin down, but impossible to ignore. At first, they are faint. Scraps of breath passed between soldiers, murmurs traded between Sith who speak too quietly to be heard. But soon, they grow louder, more insistent, and all of them carry the same name, Malgus. You hear it in the barracks where soldiers strip their armor clean of ash, their hands raw and stained from battle. They mutter of him while scraping blood from plates of durasteel, their voices low, reverent, not the Emperor's glory, not the Council's wisdom, Malgus's strength. They speak of the day he burned the Jedi temple, the day he stood alone at the gates, coughing smoke through shattered lungs but refusing to fall. To them, he is no longer just a general. He is the embodiment of war itself. You hear it in the shadows of the cantinas, where bounty hunters sip bitter liquor that tastes of metal and rust, where smugglers roll dice across sticky tables. They whisper of a Sith who does not play games, who does not waste time with endless politics, a Sith who cuts straight to the heart of things, through stone, through fire, through flesh. Their voices are sharp with admiration and fear. They know monsters when they see them, and Malgus is a monster they could follow. And you hear it even in the training pits, where young acolytes clash in sparks of red. Their eyes gleam when they speak his name. To them, Malgus is proof that power can break the chains of tradition, proof that strength does not need permission to exist. To them, he is not the Emperor's pet. He is the wolf that refuses the leash. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because the stronger you became, the more you threatened the very order you fought to uphold. You see him now, Malgus, standing in the heart of the storm world, his cape snapping in the wind, lightning fracturing the sky above. Rain lashes against his armor, each drop hissing as it strikes scorched metal. His breath is steady, ragged through the rasp of lungs that will never fully heal, but there is no weakness in it, only rhythm, only inevitability. He stares across the skyline, not at the towers of the Dark Council, not at the palace that cloaks itself in shadow, but at the horizon, beyond, to something greater. His mind is alive with fire. You can feel it burning through him, consuming him, shaping him into something new. He dreams of an empire that does not bow to the whims of an emperor who hides in shadows, an empire that does not fracture into petty councils and endless schemes. He dreams of an empire forged by strength alone, his strength. But dreams are dangerous here. Dreams become whispers, whispers become rumors, and rumors spread faster than fire. You walk with him through the barracks one night, his boots echoing against the wet stone. Soldiers snap to attention as he passes, their eyes sharp, their spines straight. But in their gaze you see more than discipline. You see hunger. They do not just respect him, they believe in him. They would follow him, not just into battle but into rebellion. He feels it too. Their loyalty, their trust. It clings to him heavier than any chain. And for the first time, Malgus does not try to shake it off. He lets it grow. He feeds it, not with speeches, not with politics, but with presence, with victories, with the silent, undeniable truth that wherever Malgus goes, triumph follows. The council sees it. Of course they do. Their eyes are everywhere. Their paranoia deeper than any wound. They sneer at him in their chambers, their voices dripping with disdain. They call him reckless, a beast, a blunt instrument. They whisper that he is dangerous, uncontrollable. They are right, and Malgus smiles when he hears it, because their fear tastes sweeter than any praise. Still, the leash tugs. The Emperor's will looms like a shadow over his every step. Missions assigned, victories claimed, his strength used, never recognized. And every time the leash yanks him back, the wolf inside him snarls louder. You see him in the dark of his quarters, the storm outside flashing against his scarred face. His hands tremble, not with fear, but with fury. He thinks of Alina, of her laughter, of her touch, of the way her death carved out the last piece of him that was human. He whispers her name once, just once, and then never again, because now all that remains is the mask, Malgus. And Malgus is not built for chains. The whispers grow bolder. Sith acolytes begin to murmur openly in the pits, speaking of a new order, of a future built not on lies but on strength. Soldiers swap stories of his victories, their voices thick with pride, their eyes shining with dangerous loyalty. And even the council begins to hear his name whispered not as a warning, but as a promise. Malgus. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because while they rebuilt their temple, while they licked their wounds and buried their dead, their enemy was not simply recovering, he was growing. He was becoming something larger than even the Sith themselves could contain. Malgus knows it. You can feel the realization settle into his bones. He no longer belongs to the council. He no longer belongs to the Emperor. He belongs to the storm he is creating, the rebellion that grows in whispers and shadows. He is its voice, its heart, its inevitable blade. And yet the danger coils tighter. The whispers may inspire soldiers, but they also draw eyes. Spies in the barracks, informants in the pits. The council leans closer, their knives sharper. Every day Malgus lives, the leash grows heavier, the leash bearers more desperate to remind him that he serves. But wolves do not serve. Wolves break chains. Wolves bite. One night the storm outside rages louder than ever. Lightning splits the sky. Thunder shakes the towers. Rain pours in sheets against the windows. Malgus stands at the center of it, arms crossed, his silhouette outlined in flashes of white light. He listens to the storm, to the whispers that echo through it, whispers of betrayal, whispers of rebellion, whispers of destiny. And then he speaks. His voice is low, rasping, each word sharp as a blade. An empire without chains. The storm swallows his words, but you feel them linger, heavy, alive, burning through the night. For the first time, Malgus has said it aloud. No longer just a thought, no longer just a whisper, a declaration. And as the thunder rolls, as the rain hammers harder, you realize something chilling. The rebellion has begun. But rebellion never comes without blood. You open your eyes to the void of space, not calm, not still, but alive. You hear the rumble of engines humming through your bones, feel the vibration of reactors feeding on fire, smell the ozone of charging weapons flooding the air. It is not silence here, it is anticipation. And then you see them, ships, dozens, hundreds, their hulls jagged and black, their banners stripped of the Emperor's crest, replaced with emptiness. Banners that are not red, not gold, not adorned with the symbols of a throne. Black, as if daring the galaxy to see nothing but the storm they herald. And at the head of it all, Malgus. He stands on the bridge, his cape whipping in the artificial wind, his breath rasping through scorched lungs, steady and relentless. His armor gleams with the scars of battles past, each dent a memory, each crack a story. His eyes burn as they look upon the galaxy stretched before him, not as something to serve, but as something to take, something to claim, something to burn. You feel it in your chest, the vow he made among the ashes of Elena, the vow he made beneath the Emperor's shadow. Never again will he bow, never again will he serve, never again will he let chains bind him. And now, in this moment, he tears free. The war begins not with a whisper, but with thunder. His fleet surges forward, engines roaring, cannons primed. The first barrage explodes against an Imperial station still loyal to the throne. Fire blossoms across the void, shards of metal spinning out into the endless dark. The silence of space is shattered by screams carried over comm channels, desperate voices begging for orders, begging for mercy. None comes. Malgus does not hesitate. His command is sharp, curt, spoken in a rasp that cuts deeper than any blade. Burn them! And so they burn. You see the black banners slicing across the stars, his ships carving through the Emperor's fore. With ruthless precision, turbo lasers light the void like lightning, red bolts searing into hulls, tearing ships apart. You feel the thunder of cannons in your bones, every impact rattling through your chest. You see fire erupt in slow-motion blossoms across the darkness, the wreckage spinning like dying stars. On the ground, his soldiers march. Their armor is dark, their banners blank, their chants carried like thunder through war-torn streets. They follow him not because they are ordered, but because they believe. You hear their boots striking in rhythm, their rifles humming with power, their voices rising in a single name, Malgus. The Republic watches from the shadows, hesitant, uncertain. Their enemies are tearing each other apart, and for once, they are not the ones bleeding. But you know deep down, they are not safe. Because Malgus does not fight for borders. He does not fight for treaties. He does not fight for anyone's survival but his own. His war is not to preserve. His war is to destroy. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because when the Sith tore at each other, the galaxy only suffered more. You stand on the bridge with him as reports flood in. System after system falling, planets bending beneath the weight of his rebellion. Some join willingly, their leaders swayed by his vision of strength without chains. Others resist, their screams silenced by fire raining from orbit. His eyes remain steady, his hands never tremble. Every victory fuels him, every conquest strengthens the storm. But rebellion does not come without cost. The Emperor does not remain silent. Loyalist fleets rally, bearing the red banners of the throne, their cannons blazing, their commanders sworn to crush the wolf who defied their master. They hurl themselves into battle with desperation, their ships clashing against Malgus's in storms of fire. You hear the scream of metal as hulls split, the roar of engines as fighters streak across the void, the explosions that light up the dark like dying suns. Malgus stands unflinching. His commands are sharp, merciless. He shifts fleets with precision, pulls traps tighter than a predator's jaws. You feel the force in him, guiding, shaping, bending the storm to his will. His soldiers fight harder, scream louder, because they believe he is more than a man. He is the voice of rebellion. He is the storm itself, but you feel the cracks forming, supply lines stretched thin, officers whispering of exhaustion, soldiers bleeding faster than reinforcements can come, and in the shadows, spies, informants carrying his every move back to the council, back to the emperor. The leash he once tore free from now reaches for him again, tighter, sharper, more desperate to choke him into silence. Still, he fights. On the ground, the war is worse. Cities collapse beneath bombardments, skies are choked with smoke, streets flooded with blood. Civilians scatter like insects, their screams mixing with the roar of engines, the hiss of sabers, the crack of blasters. You smell fire, acrid and sharp. You taste ash on your tongue. You feel the heat of collapsing towers pressing against your skin. And through it all, Malgus advances, blade in hand, his breath steady, his rage endless. You wonder for a moment if he feels doubt, if somewhere, buried beneath the mask, he questions the cost. But then you see his eyes, glowing, steady, and you know he does not care, because this is not just war, this is freedom. His freedom. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because freedom only ever came at the edge of a blade. The battles grow larger, the storm grows louder, the galaxy begins to tremble under the weight of his rebellion. And yet, the Emperor's shadow looms closer with every step. Loyalist fleets multiply, their commanders fueled not just by orders, but by fear of what happens if they fail. You can feel it in the Force, a clash building, inevitable, unstoppable. One night, as the fleet regroups above a conquered world, Malgus stands at the viewport, staring into the void. Lightning from the planet's storms flashes across his armor, casting his face in sharp relief. His soldiers behind him whisper of destiny, of a new empire, of freedom. But his silence is heavier than their words. You feel it in him. He knows the cost. He knows the leash will not let him go so easily. Still his vow is stronger. He will not bow, not again, not ever. And as the alarms blare across the ship, as sensors scream of incoming fleets, as the void itself trembles with the approach of the Emperor's wrath, Malgus does not flinch. His hand tightens on his saber, his breath steadies, his eyes burn. The war of independence has begun, but every storm meets resistance, and somewhere, just beyond the black banners, the Emperor is waiting. You open your eyes to fire, not the fleeting fire of battle, not the wild chaos of war, but fire controlled, fire harnessed. You smell smoke clinging to the stone, you hear the hiss of molten rock pouring into channels carved deep into the earth. You feel heat on your face, oppressive, heavy, as if the planet itself is exhaling against your skin. And there, in the middle of the smoke and flame, rises something new. A fortress. It grows from the mountains like jagged teeth, walls of obsidian black stone scarred with glowing rivers of magma. Towers climb into the storm-choked sky, their spires sharp as blades, lightning illuminating them in flashes of silver. You hear the sound of chains dragging, of hammers pounding, of stone groaning beneath the weight of ambition. This is not just a stronghold. This is a statement, a monument to defiance. And at its center stands Malgus. His armor gleams in the red glow of the molten rivers, his cape whipping in the hot winds that coil around the spires. His breath rasps steadily, echoing against the cavern walls like the growl of a predator too large to ignore. His eyes burn as he surveys the rising fortress. Every stone laid, every tower raised, every shadow stretching across the valley. It all belongs to him, his empire. Born not from the Emperor's will, not from the Council's schemes, but from his own defiance. You walk the halls as they take shape, and you can almost hear the walls breathe. Each brick feels alive, holding the weight of ambition, the echo of rebellion. Soldiers march through corridors still dripping with fresh mortar, their boots clanging against unfinished floors. The smell of oil and sweat hangs in the air. Engineers shout, their voices carrying over the roar of furnaces. And above it all, Malgus's presence dominates, his shadow stretching longer than any tower. He calls it a fortress, but you know what it truly is. A throne, a nest for the storm. His soldiers whisper about it in reverence, in fear. They call it impregnable, unbreakable. They call it the place where the galaxy itself will kneel. And in their voices, you hear belief, not in the Emperor, not in the Council, in Malgus, That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because while they struggled to rebuild their temple, while they whispered of peace and balance, their enemy was raising something far darker. A temple of fear, carved not from stone and hope, but from defiance and rage. The fortress grows day by day. You hear the groan of cranes lifting plates of black steel into the sky, the thunder of drills biting into the earth, the hiss of steam flooding the air. Inside, the halls lengthen, vast chambers opening into endless darkness. Training arenas echo with the clash of blades, the shouts of soldiers being forged into fanatics. Barracks fill with men and women who no longer fight for pay, no longer fight for duty, they fight for Malgus. You feel the atmosphere shift within these walls. The air tastes of iron, of sweat, of smoke. It tastes of war. And in every corner, shadows gather, not just from torches flickering against stone, but from the weight of fear itself. This place is alive, alive with hunger, alive with ambition. You walk its halls, and you know you are being watched. The fortress itself watches. Malgus does not simply build with stone. He builds with terror. Statues rise, carved in his image, towering forms of armor and blade, their faces masked, their eyes hollow. They loom over the courtyards, casting shadows so long they seem to choke the light itself. Soldiers look up at them and feel their own bodies shrink. Civilians brought in chains to serve in the fortress bow their heads, too afraid to meet the gaze of stone. Even in silence, the statues roar. Malgus is eternal. You see him walking among them one night, his breath misting in the cold air, his hand brushing against the stone. His eyes blaze with satisfaction, but also with hunger. This is not enough. It will never be enough, because he is not just building walls, he is building a future. An empire in his own image, an empire without chains, but whispers spread, as they always do. Not whispers of loyalty this time, but whispers of fear. Officers mutter in secret, their voices hushed, their eyes darting. Some fear his ambition will doom them all. Others fear the emperor's wrath. They speak of spies, of assassins, of the leash tightening once again. And in their fear, they plant seeds of betrayal. You can feel Malgus sense it too. His jaw tightens, his fists clench. He stalks the halls at night like a predator, his boots echoing against stone, his cape dragging across the floor. Soldiers scatter at his approach, their eyes wide, their voices dying in their throats. He is not simply their commander anymore. He is their god, and gods do not tolerate dissent. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even in the heart of your empire, even when you carved your power into stone and fire, betrayal always slithered through the cracks. The fortress is complete at last. Its towers stretch into the storm, its walls shimmer with the heat of molten rivers, its halls echo with the sound of soldiers chanting his name. Malgus stands on the highest balcony, overlooking the world below. The storm lashes against him, rain stinging his scarred skin, lightning flashing across his mask. His breath rasps through the roar of thunder, steady, unyielding. He raises his blade, and the soldiers below roar as one, their voices shaking the very ground. This is his empire, his fortress, his throne of fear. But even as the roar of his soldiers fills the air, you hear something else, faint, distant, carried on. The wind, the sound of ships, engines humming in the sky. Reinforcements, not his, the emperor's, the council's. Their shadows stretch across the horizon, their knives sharpened, their eyes fixed on him. Malgus has carved his empire into stone and fire, but empires built on defiance always draw enemies. And now, the storm he has raised is about to break against the wrath of both Republic and Sith alike. The fortress breathes around you, alive, waiting. The statues loom higher, the shadows deepen, the air thickens. And as Malgus lowers his blade, his eyes fixed on the sky, you know, this fortress will not simply be his sanctuary, it will be his battlefield. The enemy is coming, and the storm will meet them here. You open your eyes to footsteps in the dark, not the heavy march of soldiers, not the proud stride of warriors chanting Malgus's name, but softer, slithering. The kind of steps that try not to be heard. The kind of steps that make your skin prickle because you know they should not be there. In a fortress carved from fire and stone, raised on fear itself, betrayal has already found its way inside. The galaxy is never kind to those who dream too loud. You feel it in the air, thicker than smoke, sharper than ash. Whispers cling to the walls of Malgus's fortress like mold, spreading in the shadows. Servants speak too quietly when they think no one listens. Officers trade glances that last too long. Spies slither in the halls, unseen but always present, carrying secrets through the cracks of stone. The fortress breathes, yes, but now it feels as though it is choking on treachery. Malgus senses it. You see it in the way his eyes narrow as he passes through the corridors, the way his head tilts when the whispers die too quickly around him. His breath rasps harder, slower, like a predator's growl echoing in a cavern. Soldiers stand straighter when he walks by, their boots striking louder than usual, trying too hard to look innocent, and in that false rhythm, he hears the truth. Betrayal. He summons his officers to the war room, the great chamber lit by rivers of molten stone running through channels carved into the floor. The heat licks at your skin, sweat dripping down your neck, the taste of metal sharp in the air. Maps flicker in holograms, glowing red across the stone table. His officers stand around it, their eyes darting, their hands folded behind their backs. Their loyalty is written on their lips, but their fear betrays them in their silence. Malgus's voice cuts through the room, gravel mixed with thunder. There are spies among us. The words strike harder than any blob. You feel the air tremble. No one breathes. He does not accuse. He does not point. He simply states the truth, and the weight of it is enough. His eyes scan each of them, piercing, burning, until even the strongest officers look away. But he does not strike. Not yet, because strength cannot silence betrayal when it hides in silence. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because no matter how strong your blade, no matter how loud your roar, treachery was always quiet. The first betrayal comes like a spark in the night, a supply line cut without warning, a ship lost to an ambush it should have seen coming. Soldiers starve while loyalist fleets wait with uncanny precision. Malgus slams his fist into the war table, sparks scattering from the hologram, maps blinking in and out. His breath roars, his eyes blaze, but even rage cannot cut down a traitor hidden in the dark. The second betrayal is bloodier. A captain he trusted leads his squad into a canyon and never returns. Their bodies are found later, charred and broken, lightsabers and blasters left cooling in the dirt. Malgus kneels beside them, his gauntlets brushing ash from their scorched armor. His breath rattles heavier, angrier. His soldiers look at him with fear, waiting for an explosion of fury. But Malgus does not roar, he does not strike, he rises in silence, and in that silence you feel the storm grow darker. The fortress itself becomes haunted, shadows cling to corners, conversations cut short when boots echo in the halls. Statues of Malgus loom above, their stone eyes watching, but even they cannot silence the whispers. He is too ambitious, he is too dangerous, he cannot win. The traitors breathe the same air as the loyal, march the same halls, chant the same name, and no one knows who will turn next. One night the betrayal comes to his door. You hear the scrape of a blade unsheathing in the silence. You smell the faint oil of a weapon prepared in secret. You see the flicker of shadow moving closer, closer. Malgus is awake before the assassin can strike. His saber ignites in a flash of red, the light searing the darkness, the hum filling the chamber like a scream. Sparks shower as blades clash, the assassin stumbling back under the weight of his fury. Malgus does not hesitate. His swing is brutal, final. The body crumples, the weapon clatters across the floor. He stands over the corpse, chest heaving, breath rattling. His eyes narrow as he stares at the mask the assassin wore, a mask not of Republic design, but of Sith, one of his own. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because the blade aimed at your back was always sharper than the one in your hand. The executions begin at dawn. Malgus drags the corpse of the assassin into the courtyard, the black banners whipping in the storm above. His soldiers gather, their eyes wide, their breaths caught in their throats. He holds the mask high, his voice a roar against the thunder. Betrayal will not be tolerated. His blade ignites, its red glow casting shadows across their faces. He does not stop at one execution. He orders 10 more. Suspects, rumors, whispers, soldiers dragged screaming into the courtyard, their pleas silenced by the hiss of his saber. The air reeks of burning flesh, the ground slick with blood. Fear spreads thicker than fire. Soldiers whisper no longer, their voices stolen by terror. Officers glance at each other, but say nothing. The fortress grows quieter, the silence heavier. Malgus walks its halls, his shadow longer, his presence suffocating. The whispers of betrayal do not stop, but now they are buried deeper, beneath the weight of fear. Still, betrayal does not die. It festers. One evening, as the storm lashes the towers, a message slips through the cracks. A coded transmission, caught by chance, meant for the Emperor's loyalists. Malgus listens to it in silence, his fists clenching, his jaw tight. The voice is distorted, but the intent is clear. His position has been given away. His fortress is marked. His rebellion is bleeding from within. He smashes the console, sparks showering, shards scattering across the floor. His roar shakes the chamber, louder than thunder. His soldiers flinch, their eyes wide, their bodies trembling. But Malgus does not care. He has been betrayed again, and this time the knife has cut deep. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even strength could not silence betrayal. He retreats to the highest balcony, the storm raging around him. Rain lashes his armor, lightning illuminates his scarred face. He grips the railing, metal bending beneath his strength, his breath rattling, his chest heaving. The fortress looms behind him, silent, brooding, alive with shadows. The galaxy stretches before him, dark and endless. And in that moment, he knows the truth. Betrayal is not an enemy you can kill. Betrayal is a disease. It seeps into every crack, infects every loyal voice, rots every chain of command. And no matter how many bodies fall at his feet, no matter how many traitors he cuts down, more will always rise. The storm howls, rain biting at your skin, thunder rolling across the sky. Malgus raises his head, his eyes burning against the lightning. He does not bow, he does not falter, he does not break. But as the storm clears, you see them. Lights on the horizon, dozens, hundreds, warships, engines humming, banners burning red with the Emperor's mark. The traitors have done their work. The fortress has been betrayed. And now, the enemy is coming. You open your eyes to the sound of thunder, not the storm of a planet's sky, but the storm of war. The roar of engines rattles the bones of the galaxy, starfighters ripping across the heavens like knives tearing cloth. You feel the vibration in your chest, in your teeth, in the marrow of your bones. Every heartbeat is drowned out by the shriek of ion drives, the scream of lasers carving fire across the void. The sky is no longer sky, it is battlefield. And in that storm, 3 banners rise. The Republic, their fleets glint in blue and silver, their formations tight, their soldiers drilled in discipline. They fight not for conquest, not for domination, but for survival, for the desperate belief that balance can still exist in a galaxy that has already been burned. The Sith, loyalists to the Emperor, their ships blood red, their cannons primed with fury. They fight for control, for obedience, for the leash they have always held on every Sith too bold to dream. And Malgus, his fleet flies black banners, empty, defiant. No symbols, no Emperor, no chains. His soldiers fight with a hunger sharper than any blade, their eyes burning with belief in the wolf who broke free. 3 storms collide, and the galaxy screams. The first blast shakes the sky, a broadside from Malgus's flagship tearing into a Republic cruiser. Fire erupts, blooming in the void like a dying star. Fragments of Dura steel spin outward, glowing red before vanishing into silence. The Republic responds instantly, their turbo lasers igniting the dark, streaks of green fire slamming into Malgus's destroyers. Loyalist Sith ships flank from the other side, their crimson bolts slicing through black-armored hulls. You taste iron on your tongue, the sharp tang of blood that always comes when death is too close. The battle is chaos. Fighters swarm like locusts, engines shrieking, trails of light crisscrossing in Dizion. G-webs. You hear pilots screaming over comms, their voices breaking as they dive, as they burn, as they vanish in blossoms of flame. The smell of ozone fills the air, sharp and bitter, as consoles spark, as shields groan under impact. The void is alive, alive with fire, alive with death, and at the center of it all stands Malgus. On the bridge of his flagship, his cape whips in the artificial wind, his breath steady through lungs that should have failed years ago. His eyes are fixed on the chaos outside, unblinking, steady, like a mountain staring into the heart of a storm. He does not flinch when ships erupt in fire. He does not waver when reports scream of losses. His voice cuts through the noise, sharp, commanding. Advance! And they advance. His soldiers march across broken ground planetside, boots pounding against soil blackened by bombardment. The air is thick with smoke, the ground trembling under the weight of walkers and tanks. You hear the scream of blasters, the hiss of lightsabers clashing, the roar of cannons tearing buildings into rubble. Soldiers fall screaming, crushed beneath collapsing towers, consumed in fire raining from the sky. The earth shakes with every step, every blast, every death. The Republic's soldiers fight desperately, their armor scorched, their voices hoarse. They throw themselves into the storm, holding lines that break too quickly, rebuilding them with bodies stacked like barricades. Jedi leap among them, blades glowing, cutting swaths of light through the dark. Their sabers hiss, their movements precise, their faces grim. They fight not just against Malgus's army, but against the Loyalists as well. It is chaos, pure and merciless. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because in the clash of empires, your light was always swallowed by storms you could never control. The Loyalist Sith descend like vultures, their blades red, their laughter echoing over the battlefield. They cut down Republic soldiers with ease, sneering as they claim victory in the Emperor's name. But when they face Malgus's warriors, their laughter dies. His soldiers do not break, they do not hesitate. They fight with the certainty of zealots, their rifles screaming, their blades flashing, their voices rising in chants of his name. Malgus himself joins the ground battle. You feel the shift in the air the moment his boots strike the earth. His cape whips in the smoke, his saber ignites, its red glow cutting through the haze. His breath rasps, heavy, steady, as he moves forward. He is not fast, not graceful, not delicate. He is weight. He is inevitability. He is a mountain walking into fire. Jedi rush to meet him. Their blades hiss as they strike, blue and green crashing against crimson. Sparks fly, the air hissing with ozone. Malgus does not falter. His swings are brutal, each strike aimed to kill, each movement fueled by the furnace of his rage. He slams one Jedi into the dirt with the Force, his body breaking on impact. Another leaps, blade raised only to be caught midair, choked, crushed, discarded like ash. Their lights flicker, their screams die, and still he moves forward. The ground trembles with every step. Buildings collapse, their rubble cascading around him. Fire licks at his armor, smoke chokes his lungs, but he does not break. You see the terror in his enemy's eyes even before his blade reaches them. They do not see a man, they see a force, a storm, a mountain that cannot be moved. Above, the battle rages. Republic cruisers crack in half, their carcasses drifting into the void. Loyalist destroyers burn, their scream is lost in static as they collapse into themselves. Malgus's fleet surges, black banners cutting deeper into the chaos, carving space for his ambition. But the cost grows heavier. His ships fall, one after another, their wreckage raining fire across the atmosphere. His soldiers bleed, their chants growing quieter as the dead outnumber the living. Even his victories taste of ash, hollow against the weight of 3 armies tearing each other apart. And still, he does not falter. You feel his thoughts, sharp and relentless. Let them come, let them all come. Republic, Loyalists, Jedi, Sith. He will stand against all of them. He will not bow, he will not break. Not here, not ever. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because even when you stood unbroken, the galaxy itself would try to crush you. The clash grows louder, heavier, unending. Fire falls from the sky, sabers crash like lightning, the ground quakes beneath the weight of death, and through it all, Malgus remains, his blade a beacon of fury, his breath steady, his presence unshakable, a mountain in the storm. But mountains can crack, and as the sun dies behind smoke-choked skies, as the last Republic cruiser falls flaming into the earth, as the last Loyalist commander screams his devotion to the Emperor before being silenced, you hear something else. The storm is not over. It is only the beginning. Because even as Malgus stands unbroken, eyes burning, saber dripping with fire and blood, you see the truth. Both the Republic and the Loyalists are not finished. They will rise again. They will regroup. They will come for him harder, sharper, stronger. And somewhere beyond the smoke, beyond the fire, beyond the clash of empires, the Emperor himself is watching. You open your eyes to the hiss of fire on steel. The battlefield is no longer a city, no longer a fortress. It is a graveyard. Smoke rises in thick pillars. Ash clings to your tongue like dust, and the ground itself trembles beneath the weight of the dead. Everywhere you turn, there is ruin. Towers toppled like broken teeth, rivers of molten debris cutting through the streets, the air sour with the stench of charred flesh and shattered stone. The storm above flickers with lightning, But the thunder you hear is not the skies. It is the clash of blades, the roar of engines, the endless scream of a war that refuses to end. And at the center of it, Malgus stands. His breath rasps through shattered lungs, heavy, deliberate, like a predator drawing strength from its own pain. His armor is cracked, scorched, dripping with the blood of friend and foe alike. His cape hangs in tatters, clinging to him like the last remnant of a life that no longer matters. His eyes burn through the smoke, fixed on the figures emerging through the haze. Jedi. Their sabers ignite one by one, colors of green and blue cutting through the dark. Their faces are hard, set with grim determination. These are not Padawans, not knights caught off guard by his fury. These are masters, battle-worn, scarred, sharpened by years of war. Their light burns steady, even here, even now. And yet, when they look at him, you can see hesitation. Because they know who he is. They know what he has already done. The first strike comes fast. A blade arcs through the smoke, its hum high-pitched, its glow sharp against the blackened sky. Malgus raises his saber, the clash exploding in sparks that sting your skin, that burn the air with ozone. The shock rattles your teeth, reverberates through your chest. His feet dig into the stone, holding ground, refusing to yield. The Jedi pushes harder, muscles straining, but Malgus snarls, his voice a roar that drowns out the crackle of fire. With a surge of strength, he shoves the Jedi back, his saber flashing in a brutal counterstrike. The duel begins. Blades crash again and again, sparks showering, the air sizzling with heat. Every strike is faster, heavier, more desperate. You smell sweat and smoke, you taste ash on your tongue, you hear the hum of energy vibrating in your bones. Malgus swings like a hammer, every strike meant to kill, to break, to destroy. The Jedi move like water, flowing around him, deflecting, redirecting, trying to bleed him dry with patience. It is elegance against savagery, harmony against chaos, light against storm. But Malgus does not care for balance. He does not care for patience. He does not fight to defend. He fights to end. A saber slashes across his chest, sparks flying as it carves into armor. He stumbles back, his breath ragged, blood dripping beneath the plates. Another strike glances across his arm, searing flesh, filling the air with the smell of burnt skin. His body is breaking, piece by piece. Any man should fall, any warrior should collapse. But Malgus is not any man. He roars, the sound ripping through his throat, echoing across the ruins. The force surges outward in a wave, cracking stone, hurling Jedi back like rag dolls. Their bodies slam into broken walls, dust rising, their sabers flickering in the chaos. He staggers forward, blade still burning, eyes blazing. His lungs wheeze, choking on smoke, but he breathes anyway. He bleeds, but he fights anyway. His rage is the fire that keeps him alive. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because no matter how perfectly you trained, no matter how steady your blade, sometimes you faced an enemy who refused to die. The Jedi regroup, rising from the rubble, their faces grim, their eyes locked on him. They circle, sabers humming, their movements precise. Together they strike, one from the left, one from the right, blades slicing through the air in perfect rhythm. Malgus catches one, sparks flying, while the other slashes across his back, searing through armor, cutting into flesh. His body jerks with pain, his knees nearly buckle, but he turns, swinging wide, his saber tearing through stone, sparks igniting the ground. Blood drips from his mouth, metallic, bitter. His vision blurs, the edges of the world growing darker. His lungs scream, every breath like knives inside his chest. But the storm inside him will not fade. Rage fuels him, stronger than oxygen, sharper than blood. He fights not because he should, but because he must, because he will not bow, not to the Republic, not to the Emperor, not even to death itself. Another Jedi lunges, blade aimed for his heart. Malgus twists, the saber grazing his side, cutting deep. He snarls, his free hand snapping out. The force explodes, bones crack. The Jedi screams as his body crumples, lifeless. Malgus stumbles forward, saber dripping with sparks, eyes locked on the survivors. They hesitate now. They see the monster still standing. They feel the truth pressing against their skin. He should be dead, but he isn't, and that terrifies them more than anything. The battle stretches longer. Minutes feel like hours. The ruins echo with the clash of blades, the hiss of fire, the groan of stone splitting beneath their feet. Dust chokes your lungs, sparks sting your skin, sweat burns your eyes. You feel the ground tremble with every strike, every scream, every surge of power. And still, Malgus refuses to fall. One by one the Jedi falter, one cut down, his saber extinguished in silence, another thrown screaming into the flames, another crushed beneath the rubble of a collapsing tower. Their light flickers, smaller, weaker, until only one remains. A master, his blade glowing blue, his stance firm. His eyes meet Malgus's, steady, calm. He does not tremble. He does not falter. He whispers words you cannot hear, but you feel them. A prayer. The duel narrows to silence. The storm pauses. Only the hum of two sabers fills the night. Then they strike. The clash is deafening, the impact shaking the ground, sparks erupting in a storm. Their blades lock, their faces inches apart. The Jedi's eyes are calm. Malgus's burn with fury. His lungs wheeze, his muscles tremble, blood pours from his wounds. And yet, his grip does not loosen. His strength does not fade. He snarls, teeth bared, voice trembling with rage. I will not die. With a final surge, he shoves the Jedi back, his saber slamming down in a brutal arc. The Jedi's blade falters, his body staggered, his knees buckling. Malgus roars, driving forward, his strength fueled by pain, by rage, by defiance. The Jedi falls, his body crumpling, his saber extinguished. Silence follows, heavier than any scream. Malgus stands alone, his blade still burning, his breath ragged, his body broken. Smoke coils around him, ash drifts across the air, blood drips from his wounds. He should fall. His body demands it. His lungs demand it. His blood demands it. But he does not. He will not. Not yet. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because even when you thought the storm was over, it rose again. The battlefield is silent now, save for the crackle of fire, the hiss of molten stone. Malgus lowers his blade, his chest heaving, his eyes burning against the smoke. He turns, his cape dragging across the ash, his body trembling but unbroken. He walks forward, each step heavy, each step defiant. But as he reaches the edge of the ruins, as the storm above breaks with thunder, you hear it. Not silence, not peace. The hum of engines, the roar of fleets. The galaxy is not finished, and Malgus is not done fighting. Not even to death itself. Another Jedi lunges, blade aimed for his heart. Malgus twists, the saber grazing his side, cutting deep. He snarls, his free hand snapping out. The force explodes, bones crack. The Jedi screams as his body crumples, lifeless. Malgus stumbles forward, saber dripping with sparks, eyes locked on the survivors. They hesitate now. They see the monster still standing. They feel the truth pressing against their skin. He should be dead, but he isn't. And that terrifies them more than anything. The battle stretches longer. Minutes feel like hours. The ruins echo with the clash of blades, the hiss of fire, the groan of stone splitting beneath their feet. Dust chokes your lungs, sparks sting your skin, sweat burns your eyes. You feel the ground tremble with every strike, every scream, every surge of power. And still, Malgus refuses to fall. One by one the Jedi falter, one cut down, his saber extinguished in silence, another thrown screaming into the flames, another crushed beneath the rubble of a collapsing tower. Their light flickers, smaller, weaker, until only one remains. A master, his blade glowing blue, his stance firm. His eyes meet Malgus's, steady, calm. He does not tremble. He does not falter. He whispers words you cannot hear, but you feel them. A prayer. The duel narrows to silence. The storm pauses. Only the hum of two sabers fills the night. Then they strike. The clash is deafening, the impact shaking the ground, sparks erupting in a storm. Their blades lock, their faces inches apart. The Jedi's eyes are calm. Malgus's burn with fury. His lungs wheeze, his muscles tremble, blood pours from his wounds. And yet, his grip does not loosen. His strength does not fade. He snarls, teeth bared, voice trembling with rage. I will not die. With a final surge, he shoves the Jedi back, his saber slamming down in a brutal arc. The Jedi's blade falters, his body staggered, his knees buckling. Malgus roars, driving forward, his strength fueled by pain, by rage, by defiance. The Jedi falls, his body crumpling, his saber extinguished. Silence follows, heavier than any scream. Malgus stands alone, his blade still burning, his breath ragged, his body broken. Smoke coils around him, ash drifts across the air, blood drips from his wounds. He should fall. His body demands it. His lungs demand it. His blood demands it, but he does not. He will not yet. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because even when you thought the storm was over, it rose again. The battlefield is silent now, save for the crackle of fire, the hiss of molten stone. Malgus lowers his blade, his chest heaving, his eyes burning against the smoke. He turns, his cape dragging across the ash, his body trembling but unbroken. He walks forward, each step heavy, each step defiant. But as he reaches the edge of the ruins, as the storm above breaks with thunder, you hear it. Not silence, not peace. The hum of engines, the roar of fleets. The galaxy is not finished, and Malgus is not done fighting. You open your eyes to the sound of stone breaking. Not a small crack, not the subtle shift of settling walls, but the roar of entire towers collapsing into themselves. The fortress, the monument Malgus carved out of fire and defiance, is dying. Its walls tremble like the ribs of a wounded beast. Its foundations scream under the weight of betrayal and bombardment. You feel the tremor in the soles of your boots, rising through your legs, shaking your chest. The fortress is not just breaking, it is falling. The air is heavy with ash, so thick it clogs your throat, tastes bitter on your tongue. You cough, but the air does not clear. Flames roar in the distance, feeding on the black banners that once flew proud against the storm. The banners shrivel into ash, curling into nothing. You smell burning oil, molten stone, scorched flesh. It is a smell that clings, a smell that will never leave. Soldiers run past you in chaos. Some scream orders, their voices hoarse, broken by fear. Others drop weapons, their armor clattering against stone as they flee into the night. You see the fear in their eyes, wide and frantic. They do not chant Malgus's name anymore. They do not look to him as a god. They scatter like insects, searching for shadows, for escape, for any chance of survival. His empire is unraveling, strand by strand, soldier by soldier. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because loyalty forged in fear breaks the moment fear is outweighed by death. You see him in the ruins, Malgus, standing in the heart of his fortress as it crumbles around him. His cape hangs in tatters, edges burning. His armor is cracked, scorched, dripping with soot and blood. His breath rasps heavy, each inhale a reminder of the lungs that should have failed long ago. His saber dangles at his side, its glow weak against the storm of fire consuming his home, and yet his eyes still burn, unbroken, unyielding. A tower collapses behind him, the sound deafening, the ground quaking, stones splintering like bones, dust and flame billow, swallowing the courtyard. Malgus does not turn. He does not flinch. He stares forward into the storm, watching his empire die, watching his dream choke on betrayal and fire. The fortress is alive, you remember. You once felt it breathe, felt its walls pulse with ambition, with hunger. But now its breath is shallow, ragged. Its voice is the groan of stone, the scream of metal, the crack of fire. Every corridor collapses, every statue shatters, every symbol of Malgus's defiance is crushed beneath the weight of its own ambition. The fortress dies like a beast brought low, howling into the void. And still, he does not fall. Blaster fire echoes through the halls. Loyalist soldiers pour into the ruins, their armor shining crimson beneath the firelight. They cut down stragglers without mercy, their rifles humming, their boots stomping. You hear screams, sharp, fleeting, cut short by bolts of plasma. You see bodies crumple, smoke rising from charred wounds. The fortress is not a battlefield anymore. It is a slaughterhouse. Malgus stands in the center of it, and they come for him. Blaster bolts streak through the air, searing red against smoke. He lifts his saber, deflecting, redirecting, the bolts slamming back into their owners. Sparks shower, screams echo, bodies collapse. His breath roars louder, his swings heavier, more desperate. He fights alone now. His army is gone. His empire is dust, but he remains. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because when your enemy refused to break, you were forced to kill him again and again, and still he stood. The Loyalists advance in waves. Dozens, hundreds. Malgus cuts them down, his saber flashing like lightning, his roar echoing louder than thunder. The ground shakes with every body that falls, every wall that collapses. The fortress crumbles faster, fire spreading higher, ash choking the sky. And still, he fights. His movements are slower now, heavier, his body dragging, bleeding, breaking. His armor cracks, pieces falling away. Blood stains his chest, his arms, his face. His lungs wheeze, each breath a knife. He should be dead. Any other man would be dead, but Malgus is not any other man. He is rage. He is storm. He is defiance given form. The battle narrows to silence again. Blasters grow quiet. The last of his soldiers are gone, consumed by fire or by fear. The courtyard is littered with corpses, the air thick with smoke, the ground slick with blood. The fortress is gone, its towers shattered, its halls collapsed, its statues reduced to rubble. Only Malgus remains, a god brought to his knees. He stumbles forward, each step heavy, his saber dragging across the stone, sparks trailing behind. His cape is gone, burned away. His mask is cracked, the glow of his eyes burning through the fracture. His chest heaves, his breath rattling. He kneels, just for a moment, his hand pressing against the ground. The fire reflects in his eyes, and for the first time, you see it. Not weakness, not defeat, something worse. Loneliness. Because he has lost not just a fortress, not just an army, but the dream itself. The empire he swore to build has crumbled. The chains he broke have reformed in fire and ash. His rebellion is dead, and he is alone, but still breathing, always breathing. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even when everything you built turned to ash, you had no choice but to keep going. The storm outside swallows the night, lightning splitting the sky, thunder shaking the earth. Malgus lifts his head, his breath steady, his eyes burning through smoke and ruin. His fortress is gone. His soldiers are gone. His dream is gone. But he is not yet. And as the fire consumes the last of the walls, as the rubble buries the last of the statues, as silence falls heavy over the ruins, you hear it, distant, faint, but growing louder. Engines, the Emperor's wrath is coming, and Malgus must face it alone. You open your eyes to darkness, not the calm of night, not the quiet of sleep, but the heavy dark of captivity. The kind that presses down on your chest, that smothers you until every breath tastes like rust and blood. You hear the echo of footsteps on cold metal floors, sharp and rhythmic, the sound of soldiers escorting a prize. You smell oil, sweat, and the faint copper tang of your own wounds. You are moving, dragged forward, every clink of chain ringing louder than the thunder of cannons. Malgus is captured, the wolf who tore free, who raised black banners, who carved a fortress into stone and fire. He now staggers in shackles. His armor is shattered, hanging in scraps from his body. His cape is gone, burned away in the ruin of his dream. His skin is scorched, cut, blood drying in jagged streaks across his chest. His breath rasps louder than ever, a broken furnace refusing to die, and his eyes, even dimmed by exhaustion, still burn. The Sith take him back. Loyalist guards flank him, their faces hidden behind masks, their rifles pressed against his back. They treat him not as a man, but as an animal, pushing, prodding, dragging him through halls that reek of smoke and polished steel. He stumbles once, knees buckling, chains rattling against the floor. A soldier laughs, the sound sharp, cruel. Another shoves him forward, the butt of a rifle cracking against his ribs. The pain burns white-hot, and yet his eyes never lower. He refuses to bow. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because even when you were the strongest in the room, your leash was always waiting to be tightened. They parade him through the ship like a trophy. Officers gather at the sides, their whispers low but venomous. Some sneer in satisfaction, their eyes gleaming with smug triumph. Others look away, uneasy, knowing too well what it means to chain a wolf. You hear the words slip from their mouths. Trars, Eider, heretic, rebel. Each word lands like a stone, thrown not to wound him but to erase him. They want him to be less than he is. They want him to believe the chains are stronger than the fire inside. But Malgus does not believe. They drag him before the council. The chamber is vast, cloaked in shadows, the air heavy with the scent of incense and ozone. Torches burn low, their flames hissing as if afraid of the figures seated above. The dark council looms like statues carved from obsidian, their eyes cold, their mouths hidden by masks and hoods. Their voices echo in the chamber, low, disdainful. You defied the Emperor. You built a false empire. You betrayed your kind. Each word echoes like a hammer on an anvil. But Malgus does not flinch. He kneels because the chains force him to. He lowers his head because the guards press him down. But inside, he does not bow. His fire still burns. His rage still roars. His dream still lingers, even in ash. He lifts his eyes, and for a heartbeat, silence fills the chamber. The council sees it, the refusal, the hunger, the storm. They do not see a broken man. They see a wolf snarling behind iron bars, and it unsettles them. You feel their unease, sharp and sour, even through their masks, but they do not kill him. Not yet. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because even when your enemy should have died, the Sith always found new ways to keep their monsters alive. They drag him from the chamber, deeper into the bowels of the Empire, into darkness, into captivity. His chains grow heavier, biting into his wrists, cutting deep into flesh. His ankles bleed from the weight of shackles. The collar around his neck hums with electricity, searing whenever he resists. Each step is agony, each breath a battle, and yet he walks. Always forward, always unbroken. They throw him into a cell. The door slams shut, the echo louder than thunder, the hiss of locks sealing like the intake of a predator's breath. The room is small, bare, carved from cold stone slick with condensation. The air is damp, metallic, tasting like rust. Shadows cling to the corners, and the only light is a faint red glow from the energy field sealing him inside. He kneels in silence. His hands hang heavy, his breath rattles. His body is broken, his dream shattered, but his eyes burn. You feel his thoughts coiling like smoke. Rage, fury, defiance. He replays the fall of his fortress, the screams of his soldiers, the roar of towers collapsing. He replays the betrayal, the spies, the knives in the dark. And then he replays the silence after, the silence of being alone. He lets it all burn inside him, a furnace that cannot be extinguished. The chains bite into his flesh, but he does not feel them. The cell is cold, but he does not shiver. Because Malgus does not belong to walls. Malgus does not belong to chains. Malgus does not belong to the Emperor. Malgus belongs to war. Days blur into nights. Time loses meaning. Guards come and go, dragging him from the cell for interrogation, for humiliation, for punishment. They beat him, but he does not break. They mock him, but he does not answer. They demand repentance, but he only laughs, a harsh, ragged sound that echoes like thunder in the narrow halls. Sometimes they starve him. Sometimes they leave him chained in silence. The only sound his own rasping breath. But silence is not their ally. Silence is his forge. In silence he sharpens his rage. In silence he remembers Alina. In silence he rebuilds the dream. Not in stone, not in banners, not in soldiers, but in fire. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because even in chains, even in cages, your enemies never stopped fearing you, and they are right to fear. One night when the guards enter, Malgus raises his head. His eyes glow in the dim light, burning brighter than the torches, sharper than the energy field. For a moment you see it. The storm has not died. It has only been waiting, waiting for the cracks to widen, waiting for the leash to slip, waiting for the chance to strike. The guards hesitate, just for a heartbeat, but in that heartbeat, Malgus smiles, not with kindness, not with warmth, but with hunger, because chains can only hold for so long, and Malgus is always breathing. You open your eyes to whispers. They slither through the galaxy like smoke, curling in cantinas, drifting through barracks, bleeding into the council chambers of both Republic and Sith. Malgus is dead. They say it with relief, with triumph, with a laugh sharp enough to hide the fear still lodged in their throats. The wolf who burned Coruscant, who carved a fortress into stone and fire, who stood against empires. Gone. A threat extinguished. A nightmare buried. But you know better. Because shadows do not die. The truth hides in the silence between those whispers. Somewhere deep in the heart of the Empire, far from prying eyes, far from the ears of spies, Malgus waits, his body broken, shattered by battle, his lungs failing, his skin torn and scarred, but he breathes, always breathing, and in that breath, his will endures. You hear the sound of machines before you see him, the hum of servos, the hiss of hydraulics, the sharp smell of disinfectant mingled with the copper tang of blood. The room is cold, sterile, reeking of oil and fire. Shadows cling to the corners, broken only by the harsh white glare of surgical lights. And on the table lies Malgus, or what remains of him. His chest is open, ribs spread, lungs wheezing weakly under tubes. His face is scorched, his skin torn, one eye gone. His limbs twitch weakly, muscles torn, nerves fried. He looks less like a man and more like a corpse stretched out for dissection, but the air vibrates with something you cannot see. Not machines, not life support. Will, his will, burning, refusing to fade. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because even when you thought the monster was dead, he was only sleeping. The surgeons move around him like ghosts. their hands trembling despite their precision. Droids assist, their tools whirring, sparks flying as metal meets flesh. Plates of durasteel are fused into bone, wires sunk into nerves. Steel claws grafted to scarred muscle. The smell of burnt flesh fills the air, acrid, suffocating. Sparks rain like stars across the floor. Every strike of the torch, every hiss of the welder, every scream of the machines is answered by one sound, his breath, rasping, steady, unbroken. Hours blur into days, days blur into weeks. Time becomes meaningless inside this chamber of rebirth. Every time his body threatens to collapse, every time his heart stutters, his will drags it back. He will not die, not yet, not ever. The mask is the last piece. You see it rise from the shadows, gleaming steel forged with malice and purpose. Its shape is jagged, sharp, cruel, designed not to hide scars but to weaponize them. It lowers onto his face, locking into place with a hiss of pressurized seals. Tubes connect, feeding air into lungs that no longer breathe on their own. The rasp of his breath deepens, mechanical, monstrous, no longer a man's, a storm's. The shadow is reborn. He rises from the table, slow, deliberate, his frame now wrapped in black steel and scars. His body is ruined, yes, but his will is iron, stronger than before, sharper than before. You hear the hiss of hydraulics as he moves, the rasp of breath echoing louder, heavier. The lights flicker under the weight of his presence. The air thickens, the shadows grow deeper. He does not stumble, he does not falter. He walks as though he has been waiting for this moment all his life. Whispers reach the galaxy again, but this time they tremble. Malgus lives. You hear it in the fear dripping from soldiers' voices, in the silence of Jedi who remember the storm he brought to Coruscant, in the unease of Sith who know their chains cannot hold him. He is no longer just Malgus. He is something worse, something reborn. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, because when you tried to kill your wolf, you only forged his fangs sharper. You see him test his new body. He trains in silence, his saber flashing, the hum filling the chamber like thunder. Every strike cracks the air, every movement sharper, faster. His rage pours through him, no longer restrained by weakness, no longer slowed by wounds. The scars remain, yes, but they do not hinder. They remind. Every scar is fuel, every scar is proof that he cannot be killed. When he strikes, sparks erupt from stone walls. His saber carves through droids, through metal, through steel thicker than starship hulls. His breath hisses louder with every swing, steady as the heartbeat of the galaxy. His mask hides his face, but his eyes still burn, glowing brighter, sharper. He is not rebuilding himself. He is remaking himself into something the galaxy cannot destroy. Whispers spread again. The Republic feels the chill first. Jedi sit in their temple, their meditations disrupted by the same vision. Smoke, fire, a mask glowing red through the darkness. The Sith feel it too, a shiver that crawls beneath their skin, a presence pressing against their throats. Malgus does not need to speak to be heard. His rebirth itself is a roar. The galaxy told itself he was dead, but you know the truth. Malgus waits in the dark, a shadow reborn, rebuilt with steel and scars. He is patient now, patient in ways he never was before. His fortress is gone, his rebellion shattered, his chains reforged, but chains can be broken again. Fortress, as can be rebuilt, armies can be raised, and this time when he rises, there will be no whispers, only screams. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi, because when the shadow returned, your light was never enough. He stands at the edge of the chamber now, cloak draped over his armored frame, saber hanging at his side. His breath hisses through the mask, louder, deeper. His eyes glow through the visor, sharp as blades. He looks not at the past, not at the ashes of his rebellion, but at the horizon, at what comes next. The shadow is patient, the shadow is waiting, and when the shadow moves, the galaxy will tremble. You open your eyes to the passage of time, not in seconds, not in days, but in years. Whole wars rise and collapse like sandcastles against the tide. Armies march into fire and vanish. Jedi fall, Sith betray, empires bend and break. Leaders rise with banners stretched high, only to be forgotten in the silence that follows. Names fade, monuments crumble, victories rot into footnotes. But one thing remains. One shadow does not fade, one storm does not still. Darth Malgus. You feel the weight of his survival like a curse pressing on the galaxy's throat. The years do not soften him, the chains do not break him. The scars do not weaken him. He remains, always breathing, always waiting. You hear the whispers again. They always return, carried from soldier to soldier, smuggler to smuggler, Sith to Sith. Malgus is still alive. They whisper it with disbelief, with awe, with fear so sharp it tastes like iron on their tongues, because it should not be possible. He has been crushed by stone, broken by blades, buried in fire. He has been betrayed, captured, chained. Again and again the galaxy has tried to kill him, and again he rises. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because every time you thought you had buried the storm, lightning struck from the grave. You see him in the shadows, rebuilt and reforged, his body more steel than flesh now. The hiss of his breath echoes louder, rasping through the mask fused to his face. His eyes burn behind the visor, brighter than fire, colder than ice. His armor creaks with every movement, black plates layered over scars, tubes feeding ruined lungs, servos whining like growls. He is not a man anymore. He is something else, something forged by pain, by rage, by survival itself. He does not seek thrones, he does not seek councils, he does not seek the Emperor's leash. Malgus seeks only one thing: war, conflict, the storm. He lives for it, breathes for it, hungers for it, and that hunger never dies. You feel it in the Force, sharp as a blade, heavy as a mountain. It radiates from him, suffocating, pressing against every Jedi who dares to reach for balance, against every Sith who dares to claim dominance, against every soldier who dares to believe he is safe. Malgus is not balance. Malgus is not order. Malgus is hunger, the hunger of the Sith, made flesh. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because no matter how many wars you won, no matter how many rivals you killed, there was always one shadow waiting to outlast you. The galaxy changes around him, but he does not. Wars end, treaties form, new Sith rise in arrogance only to fall in treachery. The Republic rebuilds, only to be burned again. Time moves like a tide, washing away everything in its path. But Malgus remains, a jagged rock that the tide cannot move, cannot erode, cannot bury. He stands alone, patient, eternal. You walk with him through the ruins of his past. The broken fortress still lies in ash, statues shattered, walls cracked, towers burned. But when he stands among them, you feel something strange. Not regret, not loss, pride. Because ruins are proof of survival. Proof that even when empires fall, he does not. He has no throne now, no council, no army chanting his name. He does not need them. His survival is his empire. His breath is his rebellion. Whispers continue. Some say he is more machine than man now, a monster built of metal and rage. Others claim he is immortal, cursed to wander the galaxy until the Force itself collapses. Some worship him in secret, praying to the storm as if it were a god. Others curse him, spitting his name like poison, desperate to believe the shadow cannot return. But deep down, they all know the truth. He will return. Because Malgus is not a man you can kill. You see him in the dark of his cell, chains clamped around wrists rebuilt in steel. Guards pass outside, their boots clicking, their eyes averted. They do not meet his gaze. They cannot. Because even chained, even silent, his presence presses against them. They feel his breath, steady, mechanical, louder than their courage. They feel his eyes burning through the mask, watching, waiting. He does not move. He does not speak. He simply breathes. And that is enough. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because the enemy you feared most did not need to raise a blade to haunt you. Years pass. He is moved from fortress to prison, from prison to cage, from cage to chamber, always chained, always guarded, always watched. And yet he remains. Guards die, commanders change, prisons crumble, but Malgus does not. He survives them all. You feel it. The galaxy tries to bury him under routine, under silence, under time. But shadows do not age. Shadows do not fade. The years carve him sharper. His body withers. His muscles fray. His flesh weakens. But the steel strengthens. The scars deepen. The fire burns hotter. He is not diminished. He is distilled. Every wound strips away what is unnecessary, leaving only the hunger, only the will, only the storm. And in the silence of his chains, he dreams. Not of love, Elena's memory burned away long ago. Not of thrones, he despises them still. Not of peace, he has never known the word. He dreams of fire, of the Jedi temple burning, of towers collapsing, of soldiers chanting his name in thunder. He dreams of the galaxy itself trembling beneath his breath. He dreams, and the dream sharpens into purpose. That's why it sucked to be a Sith. Because when you caged your wolf, you only taught him patience. You hear the whispers shifting, no longer just fear, anticipation. If Malgus rises again, what then? Sith Lords grow uneasy, their eyes darting in council chambers, their voices breaking in paranoia. Jedi grow restless, sensing the shadow at the edges of their visions, seeing his mask in every nightmare. Soldiers pray in silence that their posts will never bring them to his cage, and yet deep inside they all know it. He will rise again, because Malgus is not a man, he is inevitability. You stand with him now, in silence, in chains. His mask hisses with every breath, steady as a drumbeat. His hands flex against the shackles, steel grinding against steel. His eyes glow, faint but steady, like coals refusing to die. He does not move, but you feel it. The storm gathering, the hunger sharpening, the shadow waiting. The galaxy has forgotten many names, but it has never forgotten his. Because he is not just a warrior, not just a Sith, not just a man. He is proof that survival itself can become a weapon. Proof that hunger cannot be killed. Proof that even chained, even broken, even hated, he endures. The man who wouldn't die. That's why it sucked to be a Jedi. Because when the storm returned, it did not matter how many wars you won. It only mattered that Malgus still breathed. And somewhere deep in the silence of the galaxy, you hear it. Not a whisper, not a rumor, the hiss of a breath. He waits, and the next time he rises, the galaxy will burn. You close your eyes, and you can still hear the rasp of his breath, the first cry in a stone cradle, the last exhale under a broken sky. You feel ash on your tongue from temples burned and vows betrayed. You taste the iron of choices that cut both ways. You have walked the corridors of Korriban, stood beneath the red banners of war, watched love become a weapon and a weapon become a man. And in every fire, in every silence after the scream, one truth keeps breathing back at you. He was the storm that learned to wear a face. He was the Empire's hunger given a spine. He was the shadow that would not stay buried. You step out of the story and it follows, like heat from a forge that never cools, like footsteps that never quite stop. Because some legends don't end. They linger, smoldering, waiting, every heartbeat a promise that the dark will knock again. That's why it sucked to be a Sith, but even worse, it sucked to stand against Darth Malgus.